Hello and welcome to the stream. It's me, Word Girl again, and I am going to try to stream 30 to 50 articles today because, well, tonight in the EST time zone, I don't know where it is, where you are, but happy time zone, I am running short on deadline because the deadline is Wednesday and today is Monday and it's Monday evening, and that means that I only stream 2 more times after this, which means I have a lot to do. Right now, I'm at 134 in my wonderful little spreadsheet here, which is organized, I assure you. Then I go all the way to 231, which is almost like 100. Please do forgive the lawnmower you may hear outside. There is grass cutting going on. But anyway, hopefully it's not too bad to hear that in the background as I'm talking. If it is, please let me know in the chat if you are there. If nobody is here, no problem. I'm just going to go through these myself, and I am going to send out the links to the video on demands after to these authors who were not able to make it to stream. But if you are in stream and you are in chat and you want me to go over your article, please do redeem a read my article please with 1 wisp, and by doing that you will put yourself in the queue so that I can read it while you are live and present here. If not, no worries. We are going to try to go through a lot because there's a lot to get through, and if you are not familiar with this, this is the Great Leaders of their People category in World Anvil's summer camp. And basically this the category was called Great Leaders of Their People, and I volunteered to be the sponsor of the prompt, which means I'm supposed to choose one of these great leaders to you know, win. So that's why I'm reading through all these articles, seeing which ones that I like, so that I can choose one winner. That is the ultimate goal. But it is a blast to read through these and learn so much more about all the worlds and all the authors and all the characters. I love character development, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to sponsor a prompt about characters. But, of course, only one winner can be chosen, but a lot of these articles are very interesting, and I did like a lot of them. So I, you know, still do appreciate every one of you guys letting me read these on stream. It's beneficial to you guys, it's beneficial to me, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, and thank you also to everybody who's watching these, even though some of these streams are very long and I'm reading through a lot of articles, and a lot of times I am butchering names because I do not know how to pronounce certain things, but that is one of the tips that I have for a lot of the authors. If the article is being written in English, I do ask that maybe you can add a pronunciation key just so that people can know how to pronounce it and don't get taken out of the world when they're trying to read it. The other common thing that I've been seeing is the sidebar being a little longer than the body of text, which is okay, but there's lots of ways that we can improve that and get those evened out. That's just a pet peeve of mine. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you will soon find out, because we are heading over to Greylock Twotails by the author Solstice. Greylock Twotails is a great leader of their people, apparently, and we will read why this is true. I will place the link in the chat so that you guys can check it out and read on your own time. A lot of times there are going to be articles that I read, and there's going to be links to other things in the world, and if you want to learn way more about the world, I don't have time to read through all that right now. So I encourage you to go yourself and check out the world yourself and find out more. Already very interesting art, and this is apparently a Hero Forge creation. Greylock Twotails, leader of the Albin in Lake Glunhind, Desmere. Now, I'm not sure how to pronounce that either, as I was talking about pronunciations. Keys are important. I see a person in the chat. If it weren't for the 3 minutes of ads, which suddenly interrupted, I'd know where we were at. Oh no. Thank you for joining, Kereminde. Not sure how to pronounce your username. But I appreciate you dropping into the chat. If you are from World Anvil and you have created one of these articles, Great Leaders of Their People, and you would like me to read one of them, please do redeem a read my article please and let me know your World Anvil username. If not, I will also catch you up on where we're at. Basically, we are reading articles that are great leaders of their people from World Anvil beings that have written these. So during summer camp, which happened all July, we were tasked to write 31 articles, one for each and every day, and there were 31 prompts to complete. One of those prompts being a great leader of their people. So name a great leader of their people that exists in your world. And that's why we have created these articles with these great leaders, and I'm reading through all 325 of them that I'm able to read through, and I am the sponsor of that prompt, so I am going to try to choose a winner, and that is where we're at now. This is actually the first article that we've begun to read this stream. I'm going to try to read 30 to 50 articles today because the deadline for choosing the winner is Wednesday, which means I only stream twice more before the time is up. So, anyways, this is Greylock Twotails, and since you've just joined the chat, I'm not sure if you can see the link, so I will repost that link, and you can go check out the article yourself and click along. Though sometimes there are different links like this. Takes us to Albin, so we can learn more about Albin. And obviously this must be it's an offshoot of the subterranean Skur, which branched off from the earliest. That's a lot of world building, so I'm not going to read all of it, but obviously the Albin must be a lizard folk, or lizard people. A version of them, or a subspecies of them. But if you'd like to read more about them, you can go ahead and click that link and click the Albin article and read more about it yourself. But as for now, we are only just going to skim through this article because I do see it is quite long, and we're trying to get through 30 to 50 articles tonight because time is of the essence. Yes, but we see that he is a lizard folk. Greylock Twotails is the current leader of the Albin lizard folk who live in Lake Gluhind, Dizmir. Being taller, stronger, and smarter than most Lacertians, has propelled him on his course of leadership. He is a natural leader who has brought safety, security, and prosperity to his people, despite living in the hazardous subterranean environment of the boss Magara. Under his leadership, his people have adopted self-sustaining agriculture, invested in training and defensive measures, as well as adding some new deities to their religious practices. Also, please, if you can hear a lawnmower, I apologize, but there is a grass cutting going on outside. Hopefully it's not too bad. Let me know in the chat if it is. We will continue. Greylock is tall, even for a Lacertian. Muscular, quick, and agile. His white skin and glowing green scales prove him to be a member of the Albins of Lake Gluhind, Dizmir, but his prominent red forehead and horn show him to be the undisputed leader of his people as well. As with all the Albin of Lake Gluhind, Dizmir, Greylock's harder scales and more calloused areas have taken up the bioluminescent algae from the waters of his homeland. These areas of the body now have a very distinctive green glow to them. Additionally, Greylock has manifested a prominent red forehead and a cranial crown horn. He has also earned tattoos of battle, bravery, and leadership and display them on his arms and legs. As with all of the Albin of Lake Gluhind, Dizmir, and I'm probably butchering this name each and every time I'm saying this word, but that's one of the suggestions, would be to have a pronunciation key there, or I might just be totally bad at pronouncing names. Anyway, Greylock's harder scales and more callous areas have taken up the bioluminescent algae. Oh, we've already said this. Let's just see. Oh, it's just a stub article, and there's no pronunciation key to that area, but it's okay. Greylock, like many Lacertians, does not fade clothing or armor. He wears simple loincloths and a harness for his weapons. He has picked up a few nice baubles and jewelry over the years as mementos to his people's victories. Greylock has no specialized equipment, but favors the spear, sword, round shield, and crossbow that he has acquired over his many battles with the dwarfs and humans of boss Magara. And there's a link to all these things, which is something I love, how they link different things, because there's lots that we are very curious about in this world. And the good thing is we can learn more about it. We'll go over to the sidebar for now. It tells his lawful good alignment towards his people and community. And I like how it adds towards his people and community because, of course, lawful good is totally an opinion. Other people might not see him as lawful good. So, yes, that's very true. Leading his people. Current location is that lake that I cannot pronounce. It tells his species, his ethnicity, as we went over already. He's 48 years old. Golden yellow eyes, no hair but glowing green cranial fin with central red crown horn. He's white albino, but we do know that he has green scales. 7 feet tall and 285 pounds. Greylock is fluent in Lacertian and can speak the common tongue as well as understand and speak a little Dwarven. Interesting. He's proud of accomplishments. Let's see. He hasn't had formal education. He's learned everything he knows about the lake and its surroundings from his parents and the tribal shaman. His mother focused on teaching farming and the environment. His father showed him how to fight and approach battles, and the shaman taught him of leadership. He challenged the former leader of the Alban to combat for the right to lead the people in the lake. In 711 AS, he has been its undisputed leader ever since, and both he and the people's lives have become stable, secure, and prosperous ever since that time. Greylock is proud of the accomplishments he has made that so greatly helped his people. Shortly after taking over, he has united his people and organized them into a more efficient and successful society. The good of the community now takes precedence over individuals. All decisions are based on how they will enhance the villages. He has introduced sustainable farming to the lake, finally creating a reliable food source that expanded and strengthened the community. This has freed up more time for them to branch out and develop new skills, such as turning the jitter cane sugar food flavoring into rum. Interesting world building as well. Creating specific village defenses, coordinating raiding parties, and training with new weapons taken from the dwarves and humans of the area. Perhaps the most shocking and beneficial to the community was the inclusion of 4 new deities to their worship. So it does tell about the new deities that they have added. His biggest regret and failure was being unable to prevent a party of his young scout team from exploring past the blazing worm lava river in the west. The memory of their disappearance has been used as a cautionary tale to heed the advice of the elders. Oh, heed the advice of the elders. I think that should be another E. And always make advanced plans. So, quite sad to tell, but he at least is learning from his mistakes. This picture is credited by me from Hero Forge, so we know that the author, Solstice, has created this Hero Forge art. Always great to credit your art. And also let us know where we can do it. Hero Forge is a great site where you can go ahead and just model your little characters, and you can even order them to be shipped to your house, and you can play with the little minifigures. Yeah, so this is still quite a long article, but we can skim through. He grew up in the disarray and chaos of poor leadership and constant attacks by the dwarves of Barlang Varos and the humans of Pithacaros, and that's created a sense of paranoia and desire to be prepared for all eventualities. This has molded him into the great planner and leader that he has become. He's not the smartest of lizard folk, but he's very clever, cunning, and shrewd. He has a natural desire for structure and long-term planning. He's learned not to believe or trust any other races beside his own. He only believes in himself and the people that he leads and has trained. So he has a lot of trust issues, apparently. He doesn't allow any rum or alcohol to be consumed on the eve of battle. He considers this to be very bad luck. Well, that's very, very understandable, because if you're drunk going into battle, that can be very bad for you. Likes and dislikes. He enjoys a simple life of farming and the like. Also in hand-to-hand sparring. He despises all dwarves, elves, and especially humans. Yeah, so there's a lot. So yeah, sometimes he can be so involved in making the perfect plan that he sometimes is too slow to implement that plan in an effective way. Some of his few critics, the more warlike ones, claim that his delays have cost lives despite their lack of evidence. So interesting. He His parents are deceased and he currently has 3 sons and a daughter. Interesting. He's very confident, yet kind and thoughtful about his people, charismatic, enjoys talking with community members about things that are going poorly or going well. When issues arise, it is clear that he wants to look at the situation, make a plan, and then tackle it head on. He has a pet razor raptor named Scrath that accompanies him on travels between villages. He has little time for hobbies anymore, but enjoys seeing the artwork that many of his people do in their spare time. As with all assertions, Greylock speaks with extended C's and S sounds to his words, very lizard-like. So this is an interesting character. What I would say is it is quite long. It's okay. It's very good to be detailed, and there was a lot of world building there. I know I did skim over a little bit, and I apologize for that. But I would suggest that a lot of these articles, some of them I see that are bolded, but they are not linked, which I figured those articles exist, but they are not done yet. That's totally fine. But there's a lot of articles that are done yet. So, like, we could take this article block, instead of just having the links with the words, we can also add article blocks in the side to fill up this sidebar. We can add some quotes from him to fill up the sidebar. We already have 2 pictures of art. That's great. We have a portrait picture of him, and then we have a full body picture of him. So then we can also add like some different article blocks from different related articles that are mentioned in the body of the text, and we can maybe add a quote or 2 from him, and that should help to extend that sidebar to be as long as the body, and therefore I think that would be great. Other than that, thank you so much for sharing this very interesting lizard character. Next, we do have Anika Bluehair. Anika Bluehair. Interesting name already. And Cerulean Falcon is the one who created Anika Bluehair. Didn't mean to click that. But you can go ahead and click that. Oh, I see Kereminde has said, if you have me in the spreadsheet, then I would like to be coming up. Great. So yes, this is what I mean by please redeem an article, please read if you're here, because there are 325 articles in this spreadsheet, and I'm going to try to read the ones of people that said they cannot come first, because unless you are present, because I'm trying to give people time to show up. But I only stream twice more after this, and if they cannot make it, unfortunately, I'm just going to have to stream without them present, because I'm running out of time, and I really need to get these articles done. Thank you for redeeming that. But please do tell me, what is your World Anvil username so that I can find you in the spreadsheet and read your article. If it is the same as Twitch, just say same in the chat. If it is not the same, please tell me that article author name so that I can find you in the spreadsheet. Kereminde. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm not. Yes, same. They say? Great. I will read it right after Anika Bluehair. Alright, so Mother of the New Mob. Not sure how to pronounce that either, but very interesting. This looks like an art breather, and I see that the earrings are mismatched, but it's okay. Art breather is very nice when you're just trying to grab a cute face or a nice face that, you know, represents your character. And this looks really cute. And if you didn't notice the ear situation, you would think that somebody just drew it. So it's impressive how AI works. But I don't see a credit to it. Let's see if maybe there's a credit at the bottom. Oh, well, it does say image from art breeder, and then they, oh, wow. Yep, it goes to art breeder, so we know it is art breeder. Great. All right, so properly credited, great. Anika has lived a very physically demanding life. She has the muscle to prove it, as well as the fat stores to show that she's been able to gather plenty of food and water. She has bright, alert eyes, and her skin is darkened from a life of surface dwelling. Her hair has an unusual blue tone to the black. For most New Mob people, black hair is either flat black or has red undertones, hence her last name, Bluehair. So that's unique to her people, and I do see how her hair does have blue in it. and her eyes are very alert. She wears loose-fitting clothes that are pinched off at the wrists, ankles, and neck. She usually wears a utility belt at her waist. Her long hair is typically covered in a head covering that also covers most of her face. She does take the face covering part off when she's inside, but always wears it when outside. She also has a special goggles she'll wear while on the surface during the day. So it's a lot of speaking about surface dwelling. So we wonder what this means. Let's see. She's 38. Monty pale green, cat-shaped eyes that are alert. Long black with blue tone, often tied back with simple leather ties. Medium brown, mostly clear of blemishes, with a few wrinkles. 5'5", 135 pounds of working muscle and fat stores. Gender identity. Anika is a woman. Because of the lingering social norms of gender roles from the origin culture that gave rise to both Numabian and Pyramese cultures before the fall, which is interesting. What is the fall? Anika was a staunch supporter of breaking gender norms. She advocated for clothing based on function, which meant looser flowing outfits for the heat, and head-to-toe coverings to keep out sand, dust, smog, and other irritants. These designs greatly increased survival, but went against traditional norms and were non-gendered clothing. She also believed that having mixed-gendered crews was beneficial and that gender shouldn't be the quality by which people were assigned to crew positions or duties. So that was very interesting, and that's good because it's very common. A lot of people were like, women don't go out and explore, they don't join the crew, like that kind of stuff. But I guess she was very against that, and she worked to get a better clothing that's not just like pretty clothing, but it's functional for when women need to explore. So that's already showing us a lot about her character. Personal history. Anika Bluehair, the dread pirate conqueror, came up like a weed in the barrens of the borderlands, living on scraps and always searching for more. And that is a quote by a retired explorer, Rand Belmont. Interesting. She grew up as a member of a small tribe of scavengers. While they did not enjoy the protections of a larger tribe, she learned the value of observing the world around her and finding secondary uses for things. She also learned basic survival skills for navigating the surface and underground areas of the borderlands and the wastes. This was a difficult but good time in her life that was mostly peaceful. A little before she hit puberty, her tribe was slaughtered. Very sad. She was the only survivor. She managed to intercept a different tribe a few weeks after the massacre. Impressed that she had survived for so long on her own and her inventiveness. Impressed, I believe, is probably impressed by her inventiveness as well. They allowed her a place on the crew, so long as she worked for it. It was through these experiences that she learned to navigate the cultures of the different tribes and began to see the commonalities between them. The travels also allowed her to study the ways animals and plants were adapting to the novel environment. She began to develop a paradigm of looking to the natural world to find solutions for living in the waste. So, smart. Seeing how the animals survive, and then she learns for the tribe. She struck out from her foster tribe at adulthood to create a new crew. She was very young to be a captain, but she gathered crew members from different tribes, including the 5 main ones, and they are 5 named here. Which, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. No. It's 5. Huidet must be one of the tribes. Okay. These, I would love if these were linked. I know if the articles are not done, it's okay. But yeah. I would love to know more about those tribes. Such cross-tribe collaboration was unheard of before Anika's crew. Together they came up with many inventions that transformed life in the wastes and the borderlands, including the first Saudi and battery-operated engines. Before Anika, engines were powered by combustion and steam. Vehicles were mostly rovers that had a tendency to get stuck in the sand dunes or roll over. So she helped to be such an innovative person, breaking lots of norms, figuring out new things, Yeah, she did a lot. So it says death, and I noticed death is in quotation marks, so I wonder if it was really death. Let's see. In her final years, a new disease broke out. It was given many names, but solarium was thought to be caused from a combination of bad airs and staying exposed on the surface for too long. To this day, the cause of solarium remains a mystery. The affected become erratic, moody, loss of balance, and even violent. No cure has yet to be discovered. A lot of it is slightly grammar issues. I think it's no cure. A cure has yet to be discovered. It's okay. Anika and her crew visited the tribes and people who were falling ill to this new and mysterious disease. They searched for the cause and cure until they too were afflicted. With no cure in sight and a threat to survival of the whole, Anika and her crew gathered all the afflicted into a single fleet and went searching for a cure in the blistering wastes. It is said that the fleet still sails the blistering dunes to this day, with Anika at the helm, leading her people to a future salvation. This last sacrifice of Anika lives on in the Numab's people's memory. It's a source of inspiration for epic poets, singers, and artists. Those who are afflicted with delirium will often go to the blistering wastes as their last-ditch effort to reunite with Anika's fleet and potentially be cured. Another retired explorer has said, she must have been a sorceress, for how else could an illiterate girl create so many innovations? Yes, she was mostly self-taught. Her family and tribe taught her most of the basic skills for survival as a child. Naturalist at heart, she took to observing and learning from the flora and fauna she saw while she traveled. Because she didn't learn to read and write as a child, she would generate songs and rhymes to help her remember her observations. Later in life, she did learn rudimentary reading and writing as a young adult for trade and diplomacy purposes. However, given the numerous treaty violations, she found the written word to be lacking in substance, preferring oral tradition and repeated affirmation as a binding contract. But it's very possible for someone who is less learned to come up with inventions, because a lot of times when people are learning from the same book, they have the same mindset of the world. And if you look at it from a different mindset, you might be able to figure out new things that, are not really commonly thought of. So, yeah, this character is really nice. Anika Bluehair was a simple person who was called upon in extraordinary times. That's a Numabian guardian. So, yes, this is quite a long article, but I've skimmed through quite a bit. And this is pretty nice. She's naturally curious and observant, of course, incredibly practical and creative. The flexibility in her thought process, combined with her drive to make life better for all people, meant that she was a trailblazer and an inventor. That's another thing. A lot of people probably just didn't expect her to come up with the things she came up with, because they were breaking a lot of the norms that people were thinking were too taboo to break. So, of course, even though she's a less educated person, she still was looking at the world differently. And that's the main thing that these people, I guess, were so confused by. But anyway, this is a very nice article, a very nice character. I enjoyed reading this article. And she, of course, was a very great leader of her people. Now, I will say, there are some grammar errors, but that's to be expected. Also, the sidebar, as I always say, the sidebar is not as long as the text. And I would just suggest that maybe you can maybe link some things. I don't think I saw any links in here except for Numab. And yep, Numab, I was right. Or Numab, I'm not sure. Whichever, Numab or Numab, that we can put that in an article block here. I like how you broke this up with quotes, but that is making this a little longer. I would also say maybe using a sticky sidebar could help, which I've mentioned quite a bit. Let me see if I can just find it. Not this. What? Which one? Okay, we'll just go to this. This is my world. So basically, the body of this is quite long, But you see how when I scroll here, the sidebar doesn't move until I get to the end of here. So that is called a sticky sidebar. If your article is just way too long and you don't have anything else to add to this sidebar, you can make a sticky sidebar to help, you know, everything extend and not feel like there's just a naked spot here. But other than that, I really thank you so much, Cerulean Falcon, for sharing that article. That was a delight. Thank you. Next, we do have Kereminde. Not sure if that is how you pronounce it still. And they have the article, and I'm about to search for their article. They have redeemed. Read my article, please. And there they are. Saint Delos Martinei. Saint Delos Martinei, or Martinei. Not sure. Kereminde, if you are still here, feel free to correct me if I mess up any pronunciations. And let me know anything if you have any questions. I am going to put in the chat the link so that you guys can click it on your own terms and read it too. So if you are still here, Kereminde, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and we're going to dive into your article now. Oh no! Kereminde has said pause, there's an ad. So we are going to pause because there's an ad. I've been trying to experiment with these things because I have no idea some of the stuff that's going on with these ads. I'm glad that the chat still works and that they were able to redeem a pause, there's an ad before I read their article. It would be horrible to read through their article and then see that they can't even see. So, while we're waiting for the ad to be over, yes, let's talk about, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Oh, Kereminde says another 4 ad block just hit. Ah! Alright, let me know when it's over. Alright. So, I sometimes do this staring contest thing. I know that there is a ceiling fan that keeps on messing up my eyes. Oh, Kereminde has said Martinei was more like Martinei in my head when I wrote it. Don't have a firm decision on the pronouncing other than Delos being Delos. Alright, enter. Interesting, I'm trying to say. Did I say enter? Yes, so if the ad is over, please let me know. If the ad is not over, then I will still wait. And let's do a staring contest. I've backed up a bit so that this ceiling fan won't be in the way. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ugh, the ceiling fan has gotten to my eyes again. Or maybe it's just staring at myself. Staring is weird. Kereminde says, ads have now finished. We're all now clear. Thank you for letting me know, and I'm glad that they're over. Sorry about those ads. I've become affiliated recently, and I still can't get the ads figured out. But yes, thank you for telling me about the pronunciation, also about Saint Delos. Delos, right? Saint Delos Martinei. I thought it was Martinei. I said that the first time, but I was not sure. So, you want to know about Saint Delos. Tell me, what have you heard about the Knightly Order of Delos? Before I go telling you what I know, best not to cover the same ground twice. And this is by Sage Amon Tyrell. That was a quote from Sage Amon Tyrell. And already we see that the sidebar has some links to things that we might want to know more about it. And yes, really cool. And there's even author's notes and stuff like that. Interesting, interesting. Most of what is known about St. Delos is based entirely on texts and other fragmented knowledge recovered throughout the area of Pearce and the Broken Spine Mountains. These are numerous. There are numerous names attributed to him, such as Saint Delos, Sir Delos Martinei, or Saint Delos Martinei. All of these appear to refer to the same individual, who was responsible for founding the Knightly Order of Delos. The information about the founding is fragmented, but it is known there were 7 warriors, or soldiers, who were party to a divine experience, and swore to follow a new code of conduct as dictated by Delos. These became the first of the Delian Knights though from here, historical records have not been found until the heyday of the Knightly Order in Pearce. The matter of his death is also one which needs more information. It is known he lived until the knights became protectors of Pearce, but he was supposedly killed on a sortie outside of the city. Recovered stories told through oral tradition from local tribes say this happened during a battle near one of the northern spurs of the Broken Spine Mountains. A large group of minotaurs was starting to become a threat to Parcel and other local settlements. And so the Delian Knights marched out with a force of volunteer militia to eradicate the threat. They discovered the Minotaurs had been expecting them, and it became quite a bloody battle. During the fight, Grandmaster Delos fell in single combat against the Minotaur's champion, and the other knights fought to retrieve his body, banner, and weapon. Chronologically, following this account, Grandmaster Delos became Saint Delos in many later manuscripts, and is mentioned his bones were encased in stone to keep them safe and preserved. The Delian tombs were built outside of Parcel to house both this reliquary and the preserved corpses of other knights who fell in battle. Once the city fell, the reliquary was moved to an undisclosed location. Recent discoveries by the Allied Adventurers Guild have found a second tomb of Delos, but not the reliquary. Alright, interesting. And there is a link to Allied Adventurers Guild. I would suggest that maybe you link also the related articles, the Allied Adventurers Guild. This will help to fill up the sidebar, as well as just add more, helpful links. Just in case they don't click this, they can still have a link to it in the sidebar with one of these article blocks. Another thing is, I would think, I know we don't have a portrait of him, but it would be great to, at least see how he looks, or imagine how he looks. So we could add, a description, a brief description. It could just be, his hair color, if he has hair, he might be bald. His eye color, any kind of his skin color, what kind of person he is. Is he a human? I would assume he's a human, I believe, but I'm not sure. I don't know about this world. So maybe just add a quick little thing about, a little brief description of him, and then add this article block also to the sidebar. And just using these things, we can help to extend the sidebar downwards to match with the length of the body. And that's all I would say. And yeah, other than that, thank you so much for sharing that article, Kereminde. Very interesting character, and I would love to learn more about that world. Kereminde says, 1. I'll need to wait on the extra linkage after summer camp's moratorium is over, of course. 2. A lot of this is written because this is a figure from over 1,000 years in the past, just from records instead of personal knowledge. Understandable. Yes, so of course, if it's supposed to be a figure from the past that we don't know much about, it's okay. We don't have to have too much information on, and that was a good information. That was good. I felt like that there was enough information there to have a comprehensive story. It's just that I would think that I would want more links in the sidebar, even if it's just links to the world. It can even have it an article block, a world block to your world or something like that. Even though there's not much art, you can even say, you can talk about maybe a quote from him that may have been found in ancient texts, or you can make a note his description is unknown or something like that. It depends. Whatever you want to do to fill up that sidebar. Pretty nice. And yes, don't edit yet. The judging period is not yet over. Kereminde says it's also because this is from a D&D campaign in progress, so in case the players find it, I want to avoid giving out much info. Understandable there. Yeah, of course. If they find it, you don't want to know them to know too much about the character. But like I said, you could even put in the sidebar that not much is known about them. People are still trying to find ancient texts to, credit these stories of him or something like that. Whatever you want to do. Or another thing is, you can just delete the sidebar. I wouldn't suggest this, but there is a way to hide the sidebar if it has nothing in it at all. You could just, even if it has something in it, you can still delete it. I can show you how to do that. I don't know if this is a feature that is like a paid feature. Not sure if which kind of member you are. But if you go to sections and there's sidebar sections and you go down, you will see sidebar display. And if you uncheck this, it says unchecking will force the sidebar not to display even if it has contents in it. So if you really just don't want a sidebar there and it's just naked and it's just there for no reason, you can always just hide it. But I would suggest just putting something over there because it's just irking, I guess, for me just to see that the sidebar is there and hardly anything is in it. Kereminde says one of the players has shown interest in tracking down records about the knights, so more information will be forthcoming as they find it. As I write it. Yes, true. Always true. Always ever writing, ever finding out things about our own characters, and that's the fun of it. I do see that Jallr'hali has appeared. Hello! Thank you for joining. I am trying to get through a lot of articles. I think I've only read 3 so far. If anybody else is lurking in the chat and want me to read their article, please do redeem a read my article please with 1 wisp so that I can look up your name on this spreadsheet and find you and read your article as you are present. If not, we're going to keep going through these articles of people that have not, that are not able to attend, so that I can get through things. My goal tonight is at least 30 articles, which is quite a lot, but I still have a lot to get through, and I really just need to hurry. So that's why I am rushing. But yes, please do check out these articles as I link them in the chat, because there's probably going to be links to other things that you might want to learn more about, and you can't do it because I'm going to be jetting through these articles. This looks like quite a long article. Quite a lot. So I apologize if I'm going to be skimming through it a bit, but I am going to read what I can. The name is Qhall, and I like how there's a pronunciation guide there, so I can know that it's not pronounced Qhall or something weird. It's Qhall. Just Qhall. But it's a cool spelling. I see that this is for a game, so obviously they have all the stat sheets in there. We do not have to read all this, but World Anvil has recently added where you can embed PDFs, which is very helpful. And lots of PDFs are added. There is an art of Qhall. Interesting. Qhall is an interesting guy. And I would love to see if this art is credited. Lawful Evil. Ooh. Mind Flayer. He's 120 years old. He was born in 2026, so I don't know if this is our world or if this is a different world. Obviously, yeah. Obviously, if this is our world, it's future world, but it looks like this could be another planet altogether. It could be another world. But yeah, it looks like he has a future birthday, and he's already 120 years old, which means 2026 was in the past. Shadow Realm. Odin Apartments 106. Silver gray eyes, no hair, purple skin, 6'2", and he weighs 180 pounds, I'm assuming. He knows Common, Deep Speech, Undercommon, English, and Spanish. Ooh. And there's a lot of embedded PDFs about the Mind Flayer player as a race altogether, which is interesting. Like how they have embedded these things. Oh, wow. Interesting. Art as well. I would like to know if this is credited. Kooky creatures, kooky cookies, and baking? Paking? Patting? I can't see it. I'm sorry, I don't know what that last word says because of the font, but it looks interesting. Jallr'hali says the side block does have Does one have to type in every bit of information, or are there blocks to fill in? Oh yes, exactly. So there's lots of these prompts. As if we see the sidebar has so much in here. If you don't fill it out, it won't appear. So that's why a lot of articles we see don't have any of this stuff. And like the sidebar is totally empty, because you can choose to put like pictures in the sidebar, but you can also choose to fill out certain prompts, and those prompts will appear in the sidebar. One of the things that a lot of Anvilites are like complaining about is like, we don't know what's going to show up where. So I would go to my own world just so that I can see, where is my, I'm going to go to world. No, I'm just going to just create a new article, because I don't want to accidentally edit one of my summer camp articles or something like that. Never mind, I can probably find one. Why is this going so slow? Come on now. I'll say Darius. Darius Nolan. Okay, let's go to him. He's not a summer camp article, so everything's good. It's just a stub article anyway. So you see down here, there's presentation. You fill in eyes. I did not fill in Darius's eyes. So if we go to his profile, you will see that there's nothing over here except for spouses, which I did fill in his spouse. And I filled in his related plot. But other than that, he has nothing here. So when you start to put things like this, eyes, age, skin, they will start to appear over here. So if I say blue, and I say white, and I say 30, then when I reload this page, you will see that those things appear in the side. Then I say species, human, and then I will see that that appears in the side also. So there's certain things that appear in the side, and you can make some things appear in the side that aren't there already by going to sections and going to sidebar and saying, hello, hello. Then, when you do that and reload, you'll just see that appears up here, and it's not in this little block here. So there's a lot you can do. It just, you know, you can add article blocks there and stuff like that, but this, it's really tricky sometimes where something was gonna appear in you know, World Anvil. Kereminde says you can do it two ways. There are sidebar blocks in the fields or the article, but there's also a special editing section which lets you fill up the sidebar on the edit screen under sections. Yes. Cedar Hana says I have only used the vignette block. Yeah, so there's side article top where you see that it will just appear like on the black. But then when you say content panel top, then you will see that it appears inside with the others. So you see this right here. It will appear inside this block here. And then you have what can be under. It appears underneath. And you will see that it's still inside that block. And then you have bottom, which is blah, 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 and you will see that that appears under the whole block. So there's different things that you can put, and then there's different things that will automatically just fill up there for no reason. So there's a lot of things, and it's very complicated sometimes. Sometimes you just have to experiment with things, figure out what happens. But yeah, we're gonna leave Darius alone for now, but that was just an example of how to edit the sidebar. Also, you can know that the World Anvil Discord server has a lot of neat people who are talented and skilled with these things, and they can help you if you need help. Sometimes I'm there too. If you want to reach out to me, you can always, and get tips on these kinds of things. Kereminde says I mostly stick to it unless I have a lot to fill in the specific fields, like at least a paragraph or two. Yes. So anyway, sorry to Piggy for 299 for going on such a tangent in the middle of your article. But yes, the interesting thing is you've embedded a lot of these PDFs for game purposes, which is good. But we're going to skip through some of that. He has 4 facial tentacles, as we can see here. Quite a snazzy dresser as well. Like any other Illithid, until he was sent outside the colony on a mission for the Elder Brain. Leaving the range of the Elder Brain's influence allowed him a bit of personal freedom for the first time in his life. He was suddenly aware of himself as a thing separate from the colony. Then he was pulled into a shadow rift and found himself in the mundane world. He has been in the mundane world for 50 years and has no desire to return to the shadow realm. Returning there risks returning to being a mindless slave. So this is already interesting world building. It's interesting about Qhall as a character, and it's interesting about the world, and lets us know that these people are just like being controlled and doing whatever. And then he wandered away from that mother brain, and now he's like, hey, I don't want to go back there. So this is interesting. Kereminde says the Discord is a helpful resource as well. Yes, it is. You can always find help in the World Anvil Discord. Yeah, so interesting. He has spent the last 50 years in the mundane world building himself a position of power. He has gathered those with similar goals and created the Cthulhu Gang. He wants to see those from the Shadow Realm being in a position that they can live as equals to the mundane humans. He's used his considerable intellect and his mind flayer abilities to learn everything he can about the mundane world. He seeks out the brains of those individuals that can teach him the most. He has devoured computer experts, politicians, and gangsters, all in an effort to gather a better understanding of how this mundane world functions. With his considerable computer skills gleaned from the minds he has devoured, he has scoured the internet to educate himself on everything. Cookie creatures. He's been writing a blog about making cookies that look like fantasy creatures in order to make his money. He has become rather popular and has recently opened a bakery under the same name. I thought it said baking. I'm like, cookies and baking. I thought it said baking. I'm like, that font is weird. But yeah, I thought it did say baking. I was like, that's weird. But yeah, wow, interesting. He made a baking blog. He writes under his pen name in an effort to raise awareness about the shadow kind within the mundane world. He has no fixed presence with this username, but rather creates and deletes accounts on various platforms frequently. He will comment extensively on news articles and other blogs in an effort to reveal the truth of events. He's the leader of the Cthulhu Gang. Their objective is to raise the veil and establish a place for the shadow kind within the mundane world. They help new arrivals establish identities and find work. They do their best to keep hostile and mindless shadow kind under control, but are less concerned with these problems as they feel that these types of events are likely to bring down the veil. So very interesting. It tells about him as a character. It says he's likely seen outside. He's likely seen by those outside of the Cthulhu Gang as evil. But Qhall does not perceive himself that way. He believes that he is doing what is right for all shadowkind and the world. He believes that he could bring peace to the mundane world, and using strict control measures to keep everyone in their place, he could create a society that works as it should. He's generally viewed to be strict, demanding that rules concerning behavior are obeyed and observed, ambitious, having or showing a strong desire and determination to succeed. Morality and philosophy. I will not break promises to my allies and superiors. I will promote order in society. I will always stand up for my allies. I will turn over family and allies that break the codes of my order if they are disloyal to me. And I will always tell the truth to those I respect. Taboos. Never betray an ally. Never disobey the rules of the system. His primary goal is to lift the veil. Secondary objective is to establish a place for shadowkind within the mundane world, but he believes that the veil needs to be lifted to accomplish this. Yes, so very interesting, and it does tell more about his species. It tells about his speech, how his relationships as well. And this is another annoying thing about Anvilites are like annoyed by some of this. I've talked about this before. Relationships is one of those things where if we go to back to Darius, I will show you that you see how the relationships, once you fill this out for a parent or a spouse or a sibling, when you go to the page, you cannot decide where that appears. That just appears right there in the big body of the text, even if you don't want it to be right there, which is kind of annoying. And that's something that we, like I said, when you fill out these different prompts of World Anvil, sometimes you don't know where they're going to appear when you're in the middle of doing this. They've tried to add things that help you to like know where they appear and stuff like that. But it's all trial and error. You can just put something here and then realize, oh man, that's where it's going to show up. So I will not blame you for these relationships being here because it's very annoying that they're just all like lined up right here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relationships just lined up right there. Kereminde says some articles types do tell you where they appear, but it's not universal yet. Exactly. Like I have seen that before where it's like, this is where it will appear and it has a little blue box like that. And I don't see it here at all, so I guess it's not on characters yet. Oh, here's something. It tells sidebar placement. See, it tells you kind of where it's supposed to be. But the main content, it's not telling you where it's going to appear. Yeah, it's not telling you. So that's the annoying thing. But like I said, it's good that we have these relationships here. Unfortunately, they are not in the ideal place. And it's making an already long article even longer, which makes the sidebar very short. So I would suggest, one, yes, we can add more article blocks to the sidebar to help us to fill it up. But this is quite long, where a sidebar being extended is probably going to be a lot. So what I would suggest is also, again, as I would say, that sticky sidebar, which is displayed here, where there is like a long body like this, and then the sidebar is kind of short, but it will not scroll down until we're at the end of this article. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. But that is a paid feature to use CSS, and then if you do, it is kind of complicated still, so you might want to go to the World Anvil Discord server or reach out to me, and I can help to give you the CSS necessary to add that to your world if you are able to. But if you're not able to, it's okay. You can always fill up the sidebar with art, quotes, pictures, and even some of these things that you're able to like maybe put like this. I know it says hobbies and pets, and you put it under hobbies and pets, but I would think maybe you might just want to put that in the sidebar because it's kind of long. Also, these PDFs, you might want to put these in the sidebar because they're kind of long, and I know you kind of want them to be big, but you can always click the little thing to go out into Google Drive if you need it to be big. So I would suggest maybe not putting this in the body of the article because it's just making it very long. And if you do want it to be in the body of the article, maybe put it all the way at the bottom in what you call a full width footer. And a full width footer makes the thing go all the way across the page instead of just being in the sidebar. And I can show you with Darius really quick. Go to sections, go to footer sections, and go to full width footer. And when you do this, I'm just gonna like this. And then you're going to see when I do this, it's going all the way across. It's not stopping right here where the sidebar stops. And then there's like a big naked spot right here. It's going to go all the way across instead. So I would think that maybe you could put like these kinds of embeds down at the bottom in a full width footer. So they're all the way across the page, and so that they don't contribute to this being so long and then the little sidebar being short. And also, kooky creatures, you could actually keep this picture and just put it in the sidebar, because we will know what it's referring to. You don't have to put it in the body. We will know, oh yeah, that's the logo for kooky creatures, you know. But other than that, yeah, thank you for sharing this article. It's just a bit of pet peeves with me in the sidebar. Also, I don't see any credits to the art. I would like to know, are these like Google images you searched for this brain and this picture of Qhall? I don't know. Please do credit your art. If you made this, even this, if you made it, or if you found this on Google Images or whatever you did, please do credit all your art. Even if you don't put it under each art picture, you can just at the bottom in the side in the footer just say art made by this, or all images. If all images are by you, you can say all images made by me unless otherwise stated, or you could say character portrait by whatever, brain picture by this, world cover by this. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing this very interesting character. And yeah, so sorry for continuously diverging to Darius and stuff like that, just to show examples. But yeah, I appreciate you enduring that. And I apologize again. Cedar Honnet says, I need to use CSS to create a custom character sheet. Yes. Kereminde says, it's weird for me. Sometimes the sticky sidebars do not function on my pages. Gonna need to do a whole run at it after summer camp judging. I have not nearly enough knowledge of CSS to do more than follow directions. Well, it's fine. So, you know, sometimes the sticky sidebar will stop working even if there's just one missing bracket in the text. And I did try to help somebody else who was on a stream. They asked me to send them the CSS, and I sent it to them. And then when they tried to implement it, it was not working for them. And I was like, do you have any open CSS on the page at all? Do you have any missing slash, any missing bracket, anything that's open, not closed? And they didn't think they did, but when they posted in the World Anvil Discord, there's lots of people who are able to like use inspect element, use different CSS that, you know, softwares that find the CSS that is broken, and then they actually found that they were missing one bracket, and that's why it wasn't working. And once they fixed it, it worked. So yeah, it may be something that you're just overlooking. Kereminde says, I mean, some pages it will work fine. Other pages it will not. Not sure what's causing it. Like I said, it might not be the CSS of the world. What I'm saying is the CSS on the individual page. So say like this with Darius. In the content, it says owner of Nellendale Plastics. Now, say for instance, I forgot to put the little parentheses there. When I go to this page, something's going to be slightly broken. And if it's slightly broken like that, just that little thing being slightly broken is going to make the sidebar not work. So it's a lot. It's a lot to go through all these, especially if the page is fuller and it's harder to find. If you have a linked URL bracket and then you don't have the slash to, or a bolded thing, and you don't have it finished in that one page, if there's one CSS that's messed up, the whole thing will not allow the sticky sidebar to work. So like I'm saying, you might want to go to the World Anvil Discord, paste the link there, and people can look through it and find with inspect element and other CSS software that finds broken CSS, and they can locate what little bracket is missing or something, and once you fix that, the sticky sidebar will work. It's just, yeah, it's a lot. CSS can be affected by the least of things. The least of things. But anyway, thank you again to Piggy for $2.99 for sharing that. Next we have Jallr'hali, legendary Shantiahe Emperor. I'm not sure how to pronounce that either. But I'm going to see. Hopefully they have a pronunciation key in the page. If they don't, it's okay. But that would be a suggestion from me to, you know, figure out. Kereminde says, excellent. However, it's time for me to catch a long nap before working roughly 6 hours. Have fun and good luck, and remember to hydrate. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping by, and I'm glad that I was able to be a little helpful, and I hope that those sticky sidebars do work in your world soon if you figure out what's going on with them. Yeah, and have a blessed rest, and much success with your work tomorrow. I really don't want you to be staying up late. Sometimes I do that, and it's like, oh man, I have to get up and go to work. But I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thanks so much again for sharing your article. You have a blessed evening. Next, we are going to find this little article written by Rumengol. Did not open it yet. Alright, let's close these Darius articles. Oh, interesting. Alright, so this is by Artflow AI. Artflow AI, already credited. Great job. And I noticed these two ears are inconsistent, but it's not an art breeder, it's Artflow AI. Interesting. There's new AI sites all the time. I am not familiar with. Let's see. Once again, already seeing this. This is quite a long article, but the sidebar, as we see, is very short, and the body is very long. Yeah, I would suggest putting article blocks over here. Like, there's a block to first seed, so we know what first seed is. And some of these quotes, I know you're trying to break it up with quotes, but putting some quotes in the sidebar are good as well, especially if you space it out for each of these quotes to kind of line up with each of the blocks. That would be nice, and you can use different you know, article blocks to section that off. And if not, as I said, you can use a sticky sidebar so that this little bit of information can stay here while we're scrolling through the rest of the article. And if, yes, I just talked about sticky sidebar, so I don't have to go and show you what it was. We're just going to go through this article, and we might skim through it a bit. So sorry about that, but thank you again for sharing. I don't see pronunciation tip. So Jallr, I don't know if it's Jallr'hali. Jallr'hali? If I'm saying it wrong, please do correct me. I know you're not here presently, but if you want to tell me later, you can. Note, as any Shantiahe, and there's a link to that, Jallr'hali had no gender. The masculine was given by Tyrell, listener of the story, who attributed the hero a gender according to their stereotypes. Oh, interesting. Jallr'hali, the story of Jallr'hali is told through Shantiahe, or oral tradition, and the song of his legend. Over the centuries, his achievements may have been exaggerated and mystified. He may not have existed, but if he was a real person that did only a tenth of what the song reports, that would make him on par with the greatest IDEA explorers. Already, this is an interesting world, and the background and stuff and the way that this world is set up makes me think it's a sci-fi world. So we will find out what is going on. The catch, I tell you, was not of great renown. A sole leader at his head, barely holding on its own. 'Twas where the dust offered yet another new life, an only child whose name was Jallr'hali. Still not sure of the pronunciation. So I understand why these quotes are all through, because that's tidbits of the song, which is poetic and interesting. Jallr'hali was born in an anonymous ketch, which is a Shantiahe nomad band. On the decline, the only elder was withering, and the younger looked forward to his death, so they would disband and seek a better life. The first feat of Jallr was at the very dawn of his life, when he was given his first seed, and there's a link to what that is. He did something no one before him or after him would do. He studied the seed, only seconds out of his life-giver's belly. He looked at it, felt it, and put it down without throwing the seed. From this point on, his parents knew he was one of a kind, fated with grand destiny. So already that's interesting, what a first seed is, and what, like, it must be a ritual. Yes. So we can learn more about it. Interesting thing about, oh, it's a food that marks a rite of passage. So I suppose that you're supposed to eat the seed when you first come out. But instead he was looking at it, and he said, and just put it down. That's very strange. He grew to love his people, yearned to give them a better life. By age 12, he had mastered every weapon his family had to offer, and chose his favorite. The dual daggers that one of his parents gave him when he was 8 followed him to the end of his life and became as legendary as him. It came as no surprise that he was the best hunter before even getting out of childhood, besting adults with dozens of years of experience. But his revelation was still yet to come. Then there's another tidbit of the song. Blinded by their greed and carelessness, the scum of the earth bared their fangs and knives. Before he who had yet to thrive in battle is in the hunt, though they were 5, 2 fangs were enough to carve the path to his greatness. Interesting. He was a youngling when bandit group attacked his clan, I believe, I guess. Ketch, I don't know how to pronounce that. Kesh. I don't know. So the young hero almost single-handedly fought them off, killing mercilessly over half the outlaws. Wow, he was not meant to hunt beasts, although he was excellent at it. He came to this world to face the dregs of its own kind and bring it under more favorable suns. When the elder died, it almost disbanded, as it was tradition. It was only Jallr'hali who stirred it together and took the lead. He convinced the worn-out hunters to follow him to a place that was known at the time to be a lair of malice and corruption, the Starfall Oasis. The head of the town was a terrible warrior that slaughtered his way to his position and feared no one. The song describes him as the son of the sandstorm. There's a tooltip to what that is. The leader of the robber bands, or both. Mighty heroes died at his hands before, but none were as mighty as Jallr'hali, who entered the oasis with nothing else than his daggers. So full of himself, the pariah faced the little Shantiahe with a polearm. The details of the showdown got lost in history, but in the end, it was Jallr'hali who emerged victorious. If the thugs were Shantiahe in body but not in mind, it was their first time his daggers drank a real Shantiahe's blood, yet far from the last. He assumed the role of pariah. He failed, and offered refuge to the members of his Kesh and others wronged by his predecessor. So what many sought as their goal was but a step to the Great One. The star that fell rose as he won. In spirit, Jallr'hali was already between the suns, shining with trophies forged from dust and sky. Very poetic songs. There's very interesting lore about this world. He rose as an emperor. He attracted the attention of the sandstorm, which is the dreaded entity. And he was strengthened by newfound powers, and he faced the will of the wind. His final battle shook the Shan and the sky, as pure energies clashed in a hurricane of fury. Both armies destroyed each other, and at the center of the bloodshed were the two leaders. Well, the battle lasted for 8 days until the storm ceased and Jallr'hali came out of the dust, fatally wounded but once again victorious, keeping the flow of the wind in his clenched hand. His victory was also his demise. So yeah, I guess he defeated the enemy, but he, only could come out with himself and his 2 daggers. It's saying he's not dead, he's merely resting in the Escher, the space between the worlds. So this is a very interesting world, a very interesting character. Lots of myth and lore, as it said, a lot is lost to time, which is very realistic. That this is like how these kinds of myths and stuff are in our world. A lot of times we don't know all the details of people. We don't even know if they really existed, but there's a big legend, a great legend about this person, and a lot of people sing the songs and they follow the person. So thank you so much again for sharing this, Rumengol. I do like the use of this song throughout, but what I would say is it's a bit inconsistent. I feel like maybe this should be centered, or either these two should not be centered. Other than that, as I said, the sidebar being extended or being a sticky sidebar would be good to use so that there's not just a blank naked space over here. But other than that, very interesting story. It told an interesting story. There was a bit of, I think, like tense switching and like grammar issues, but it's okay. That's to be expected. Nothing that can't be fixed with a little bit of, editing and revision. Quite a lot of these articles have had such errors, and it's totally cool. It's okay. So thanks once again for sharing this very interesting article with us. Next we have Alexander Orlovsky by FreedomExpress. Interesting name. Alright, so this is, I was like, it's not loading, but I guess it's a white background world. Very plain and very bright. So, let's see. This is Earth 2068, which seems kind of interesting, and it seems like it's like, is it like a futuristic kind of thing? Alexander Orlovsky, 1983 to 2055, was a Russian and later Siberian military officer, statesman, and the first president of the Siberian Independent Republic. Widely regarded as the father of Siberia, or the Siberian George Washington, he continues to be widely regarded outside of Russia, where he is viewed as one of the greatest traders of all time. Orlovsky was born in Omsk during the waning days of the Soviet Union. He grew up as communism fell, replaced with the turbulent early days of the Russian Federation. His family managed to avoid the worst of the 1990s as the country moved to the new millennium. After completing his required education, he volunteered in the Russian armed forces as an officer in the army. He found his advance through the ranks, hampered by corruption, but still managed to achieve the rank of colonel. Once again, I was talking about this earlier. A lot of these articles do say they rose through the ranks quickly in that exact sentence, but it's fine. During the Russo-Ukrainian War, Orlovsky led several units against Ukrainian lines near Kyiv and later in the Donbas. Later in the war, his unit was selected as the rear guard, during the catastrophic retreat from Mariupol. Although his unit attempted to hold the line, they were fixed in place and outflanked by Ukrainian units who managed to annihilate a large part of the retreating Russian army. Although his actions in Mariupol and his subsequent orderly retreat were recognized, he is also blamed for the disaster and sidelined. When the nuclear bombing of Kharkiv was ordered, Orlovsky was horrified. His faith in the institution of Russia shattered in the blink of an eye. Even as NATO forces destroyed much of the Russian military in retaliation, Orlovsky considered retirement. However, he was persuaded not to by a group of officers that would later go on to perform a coup d'etat against President Vladimir Putin. When the coup failed, the FSB cracked down hard. They were particularly brutal in Orlovsky's home city of Omsk, where they executed many of the city's leaders for charges of treason. This was the final straw from both Orlovsky and many other Siberians. Orlovsky convinced his unit to defect the newly formed Siberian Independent Republic, who immediately promoted him to colonel general. While frontline military clashes with the Russian army were infrequent, owing to its mauling at the hands of Ukraine and NATO, Orlovsky found his true calling in the stateroom. He was able to convince foreign diplomats to support the fledgling republic and regularly went on national television and internet live streams to convince the Siberian people to continue the war. In the end, the Russian armed forces were not able to sustain their losses. Siberia won its freedom, and Orlovsky was elected president in a landslide victory. While many of his policies were praised, such as fighting corruption, building institutions, improving services, and providing relief to war-torn regions, he was harshly criticized for his support for charter cities. Orlovsky retired after 2 4-year terms as the president of Siberian Independent Republic and retired in the capital of Novosibirsk. He lived for another decade and a half before dying at age 72. Interesting character, and there's a lot of real-life events that seem to be covered, with addition to additional, fiction and stuff like that, because of course we're not in the year 2055 yet, so we cannot know all the things that were going to happen, but it's very interesting how this world is seeming to be parallel to our own. Just a small short sidebar, and as I talked about before, if we could add a little bit more information about the person, if we don't have a profile picture, that's okay, but just adding like their eye color, hair color if they have hair, skin color, things like that, maybe height to add to here, and then also maybe some other links to other articles, like article blocks that will help to fill up the sidebar. But this seems like an interesting world. Very interesting world. And the fact that it's all just totally white is very interesting as well. It like gives that, I guess the mood of the world is like, it's kind of like Wikipedia basically reading. You feel like these are kind of like true events that you're reading about. I guess that is what we're trying to get across, what Freedom Express was trying to express. So thank you so much to Freedom Express for sharing that article. Next we have Lar Bresh by Catoblepon. Catoblepon. Not sure how to pronounce that name, but we are going to read their articles. Lar Bresh. Quite a short article, and we can read the whole thing. This is a character, another character drafted in Hero Forge. Very interesting character. And this sidebar is quite aligned with the body, which is good. I would probably just want to like tab down a bit, maybe add credits that this was constructed in Hero Forge, and then that would just make it right here and right lined up. Cover image by Vertixico, but I don't see the Hero Forge crediting, but even though there is a little name right here that says Hero Forge, so that's good enough. But I would just still want to add just like one thing to the sidebar. It could even be like tab down a little bit, just put a little line divider and then tab down, and then it would be just perfect there. Let's see. We shall recover this land of ours from the monsters so that we can go back home. And that is a quote from Lar Bresh. Lar Bresh is a Sheki that leads Theric compasses in the recovery of Edoro territory, impulse to recover the land where she was born, even if it is completely changed. And there's lots of links to all these kinds of things. And little tooltips, which make a lot of sense. I love tooltips, and they give a lot of information that we want. This is good CSS as well. This is cute stuff. Oh, links back to here. Oh, and then there's a sidebar here, and it tells, like, it can jump to the different sections of the page. This is nice use of CSS. The world colors are nice. The font is nice. And while I always say CSS is not everything, but when there is good CSS, it is worth noting. So that's a great one. I like this world and the CSS usage here. Barely a couple of years after being born, her parents traveled out of Edoro, where she was born, in time not to disappear with the rest of the people of Edoro when the dawn of magic changed the island. While growing, they traveled around Azura because of her father's job. I think it needs an apostrophe and an S, but that's okay. She grew quite attached to her brothers, so while that's missing an L, her mother attempted to teach her to be feminine and delicate, she ended up liking more to play combat with her older brother, something her mother never approved for. Her brothers told her stories of how they lived before starting traveling around Azura, but with time they started forgetting about this story, and these started to be things happening on their travels. Interesting. When Lar was old enough to travel on her own, she knew she wanted to become a soldier. For some years, she trained with the army of the Pearce's family, but not much happened other than training, and she grew bored, so she departed and ended up in Vuman. The city was almost 20 years old and was in dire need of some protection from the salvaged animals and monsters, so she decided to create a group of warriors to protect it. Finding, I don't know. Oh, finding, probably. Finding people to protect the city in an unknown place ended up being difficult. And after she found some, they all decided not only to protect the city, but also recover the land from the monsters, creating thus the Theric compasses. For the last years, I think that's an unnecessary S, she has been creating roads and safe spaces around Edoro with her group, while also keeping Vuman safe. She even hired Vestrak to come with her on her travels to draw a map. She leads all expeditions out the city, and when she's back in the city, she patrols as much as her team lets her. Their components love her very much and think she's a great leader, and her charismatic words help them get motivated even on their lowest. A very interesting character, and we can see how she's a great leader of her people. Dark blue eyes, brown fur with black and white fur on some parts. Nice portrait. It gives us a lot of insight into the character and the world. Thank you so much again for sharing this table, Catoblepon, sorry. I don't know why I keep on saying Catoblepon, like that's what I'm seeing. I don't think that's it. But anyway, what I would just say is, like I said, I love how the sidebar is almost there. Just almost there. If you could just tab something down, just make it like an inch down, then it would be perfect. But yes, I love the CSS of this world. I love the story that this told. I loved the, the whole thing is pretty nice and interesting to read. It's short to the point, and it's a great little article that showcases a great little character. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Next we have The Black King by Tim in a Box. If you guys are still there, if anybody is still there watching or lurking, please don't be afraid to ask me to read your article. If you're just standing there waiting for me to read your article, I'm probably not going to read it because I have like 325 of these on the page. So I need you to come off mute, as you would say, or say in the chat that you would like me to read your article so that I can jump over to it. Because I do not know to do it unless you're here. I'm right now going through articles of people that are not here and that cannot make it to a live stream. So if you can make it and you are here, please do shout yourself out in the chat so that I can know you're here and so that I can go over your article while you are here. If not, no worries. If you're just chilling out and watching and listening to these articles, thank you so much for joining me. Killer Korax says, can me read my article if you like. Thank you for chatting, Killer Korax. Please do read my article, please, with one wisp, and tell me what your World Anvil username is so that I can know you're here and so that I can search your article. This is not too long of an article. It's called The Black King. Who was the Black King? And it looks like it's a chess game. Current status dead with XX eyes, which is comical edition, I guess, considering. Yes, this is the author. The author has said some of the things are not to be pronounced by humans. So these kinds of things could be pronounced. Let's see. Oh, they made a note already in here. Oh, it just went back to the world. Okay. I'm not sure where the note... Oh, here it is. There's no real explanation, official explanation of how this is to be pronounced in any human language, but translating it to a human keyboard would roughly come up like a thohab, though plus hob. Oh, habit. Thohab, like though, and habit. Thohab. For this, and Atlans, like Atlas with an N. Atlan. Okay, so Thohab, and Atlans. So this is a very interesting world with a very interesting terminology. So now we know that, we can kind of read. Well, there were many Black Kings throughout history, but here we're focusing specifically on the last one. He was the 45th Black King who ruled the land of Thohab, I guess, during the years of 1940 PA. I mean, not 19. Did I say 19? Thohab during the years of 940 PA and 947 PA when he officially resigned. His name has since been lost to time, and it is today known only as the Black King. Like any other king before him, he was already interested in ruling the land for a while before getting chosen as king. It usually takes kings years of learning about their countries, people, and how to effectively rule them before they can even be considered as a candidate for a king. And so, the Black King took years of learning about Thohab and the previous Black Kings, what they did well and where they could do better in ruling the land. When the time came to choose the new king in 940 PA, the Black King felt he was finally ready to apply as one of the candidates. Back then, all of the candidates would have to undergo detailed exams that could go on for months before the best one was chosen by leading temple fairies or Satan's priests of the land. The king could be a fairy or a Satan's priest, but it wasn't necessary. In this particular case, the Black King was just a regular mole person. What did he do? When the Black King came to power, he was determined to do his job well and became the best Black King so far. Of course, every Black King before him had the same goal, but not all of them were as successful as they hoped to be. Black King didn't let himself get discouraged by that, and he put the plans he had for Thoab in action. One of the more important things was to make it more open to everyone. All the freaks, and there's a link to what those are. Oh, disturbingly malformed moles. Weirdos, moth fairies, and all sorts of sketchy characters were welcomed with open arms. Well, they were welcomed before, too. And Thoab was always a bit weird, but it was now under the rule of Black King that all the weirdness of Thoab became more apparent and better advertised. All freaks that were before scattered around the world started flocking to, I think it means two, this is Ot, Thoab, where they found a home among their kinds of misfits. Bat people, who were always a bit weird as well, took advantage of this too. Now the Black King let people have more freedom to do what they want and live however they want to. A community of bat people moved to the wasteland of Thoab, where they established their capital, Victorian Secret. It was under the rule of the Black King that they came up with their entire vampire theme and just ran with it. On the other side of Thoab, things turned out a bit differently, though. Part of the world closer to the mountains wasn't that appealing to moles, but it was that much more appealing to artificial people, which are currently the most advanced AI, according to this tooltip, and there's a link to those. They were rare at this time and living among other people of Thoab and Atlin. But Black King now let them set up their own town to the edge of Thoab and mountain area. They quickly built up the largest industrial area of our world that is today known for its good quality high-tech items. Beside that, the factories of industrial area produce many useful items that get exported all across the world. With this, Thoab finally got some significant export-worthy products and started bringing more wealth into Thoab. Downfall of Black King. There's no denying that Thoab started truly thriving under the rule of Black King, but Atlin and the White King ruling it weren't necessarily, I believe, probably, happy about it. They were skeptical about Black King letting all the freaks, bats, and artificial people just do whatever they want. They were afraid how this would affect Atlin and the future of the world, and in the end, White King decided to attack Black King in the most significant war to this day, known as the War of the Black and White King. This war may have marked the end of not only the Black King, but also the White King and kings in general. But all the work Black King has done during his reign and his influence are still here today. Thoab is still incredibly accepting towards all the freak bats, moth fairies, and of course moles. And to this day, industrial area with its artificial people is still probably still the most important industrial settlement and the leading area when it comes to technology. Maybe one of the most important ways how the Black King is remembered today is as the Black King chess piece in the game of chess. So, Tim in a Box has kind of created lore around the chess game, which is interesting. The Black King was a mole people, and there's a link to those. Unknown age. Wow. So it looks like maybe the 29th of July, 2006 for his date of birth and death. I think that's I don't know what that is, if that's an error or not. Then there's this 900NE and 947NE, which just means he was 47 years old. Sometimes, I've seen this before in another article, and they said that was an error. They did the age, like, in our world or something like that, accidentally. Blue eyes, black hair. Yes, and this is a portrait of the king. Chibi Maker, version 1.1. DeviantArt. Alright, so it's properly credited. Great. Alright, so that was an interesting article, and it's interesting this little language that the different territories have that can't really be pronounced by humans, but thank you for adding that little key there so that we can know how to pronounce them when we're reading. And that was a very interesting story how you brought lore to the chess game. Yeah, so now Killer Corax has redeemed. Read my article, please. Killer Corax, if you're still here, please let me know. Let me know so that we can go ahead and read. I'm gonna find. There we go. Hakkon the Brave, Thoraldson of Clan Hakonsen, High King. It's such a long name, I can't say it all because it's not able to be read right there. I'm gonna have to click it and read the rest. But quite a long name. And we are going to figure out more about this character. Yes, Killer Corax is still here. And we're going to see about reading this character. Oh wait, you know what I was saying about this? Did I say the sidebar already on this one? Yeah, the sidebar isn't too short. Sorry for jumping back to this article. I feel like I said it already, but I don't want to say it too much. But maybe you can add this note to the sidebar to help to expand the sidebar down, because this article is quite good, but the problem is like the sidebar isn't exactly even with the body. Maybe you can add one article block, or maybe one little note over here, or one quote from the Black King, just so that the article can kind of reach the same length. That's just about PrippyMonty, but yeah. Other than that, thank you so much for sharing. Sorry to jump back to that article real quick, because I don't think that I made a note of that. If I did, sorry for being repetitive. Hakkon. I would think it's Hakkon, but it looks like Khan because it's KH. Hakkon. The Brave. Thoraldson of Clan Hakonsen, High King of Vistaghast. Such a long name. There's quite a long article as well. Very detailed, I can tell. Very interesting world building already. But please don't take offense if I skim through something, because I do have like hundreds of articles to go through, and unfortunately I might not be able to spend too much time on this one. But judging on the name, how long the name is, and how long the article is, I can tell you've put a lot of thought into the lore of the world and a lot of the lore of the character, and everything like that. High King of Vistaghast, King of the province of Valholm, head of Clan Hakonsen, Hakkon Thoraldson, aka the Good, the Brave, Linorm's Bane, the Just, many others. So already a detailed character with many, many names. A man measured by the power of the foes that have fallen before him. Hakkon has never been one to shy away from standing his ground against an enemy, and should that enemy have harmed his people, wronged the innocent, or committed a grave injustice, he becomes an implacable adversary. He has in his time faced many terrible foes, from child-eating monsters, covens of hags wielding black magic, ruthless bandits, and honorless nobles alike. The heads of assassins who failed to strike him down adorn spears on his castle wall, most cut down by Hakkon himself. Many who would abuse their strength and power hate him for his hard justice, but many more fear to face him. With his most recent act of heroism, the slaying of the mighty Linorm Glimmering Fang, sending a very clear message to any who might think to oppose him or bring woe upon his kingdom, just how mighty his sword arm is. Interesting. Neutral good. It does tell us different Pathfinder stats. Clearly this is for a game. Species, human. Vistaghari is ethnicity. There's a link to it. Leader of Clan Hakonsen, and it tells all of his names. 5 years. Oh, pie eating contest champion of the High Harvest Festival, 5 years running. This last title is self-appointed. 32 years of age. 10th of last frost, which is his birthday. Pale blue eyes, short blonde hair, pale skin, 6'4", 260 pounds, mostly muscle. Quotes and catchphrases. If I walk away, or if I die, that is not what matters. What matters is when all feared you, all cowered before you, and that one was willing to stand and say no more. Hakkon, before slaying the winter wolf, Nightfrost of the Eater of Suns. Die with honor. It would be a shame if they remembered you as a coward when the Scalds tell my tale. And that was Hakkon to the Glimmering Fang, the Iced Linorm. I fight because it's a gift. I am very good at fighting. I fight with words. I fight with weapons. I am a warrior in all things. Fear is a disease. It spreads and rots the hearts of good people, but its cure is just as contagious. Courage, in the face of fear, takes root and emboldens hearts and souls. Face your own fears and stand against them, and others will find strength to do the same. When I die, When I die, I do so proud that I have lived a fine life, and will be remembered for the good I have done. You are a monster, and all that will be remembered of you was that I ended your evil and claimed your head as my prize, and that was Hakkon's final words to Glimmering Fang before decapitating him. Oh, man. Okay. So very interesting quotes from the character. A lot of quotes. He speaks a lot of languages. He has cloak made from one of his foes. He has Steel Fang, Slayer of Foes, magical sword of lost dwarven craft forged in days when the gods and titans waged war. True name is only known to Hakkon and perhaps his sister who recovered the sword in time, lost ruin on one of their adventures. So interesting. But as we see that the article is very long, that was only the sidebar and it had a lot of lore there. I would suggest putting more article blocks and stuff to fill this up, or as I've suggested earlier, I'm not sure if you were watching earlier, but sticky sidebar is something that is suggested as well, so that you can make sure that even though the article body is quite long, this still doesn't go down and show like a little naked spot like this until the end of the article. If you'd like to know about the sticky sidebar CSS, please let me know. And if you are not able to use CSS, no worries. We can always use more article blocks to fill up this sidebar. We don't have a character portrait of the character, but it's okay. We do have some description of the character. And there's other things that can also be added to the sidebar. Also, some of this... I think that all these things are just filling out a lot of the prompts, so they automatically appear in the body. But the Legend of Glimmering Fang maybe can fit in a full width footer, or either in the sidebar or something like that. We'll read a little bit about him in the body. The man who stands before you is not what you expected. He is tall, but not the giant of a man many claim. He is certainly handsome, and his icy blue eyes have doubtless won many hearts. But you have seen better-looking men. His straw yellow hair is frightfully common, though it and his beard are very well groomed. Yet there's something about the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, that makes him seem larger than life, a man who people want to lead them. This is the man voted as High King of the Vistaghast Isles. Hakkon, the brave Hakkon, the good Hakkon, slayer of the ice Linorm Glimmering Fang, foe of trolls, goblins, orcs, and giants, he who toppled his corrupt uncle's seat of power and brought justice to a decadent throne. Even if he was not High King, he is a hero among the people of the North, a just noble warrior king of old, a man of true honor and courage. His ability to draw love and admiration is surely great, but thus so also must be his power to draw the jealous, bitter, and petty beings who would desire to dethrone him. So already a poetic introduction to the character, I would assume, also, when you first meet him in the game, probably. Because it said, the man who stands before you. So this is probably as you're playing the game. That was a good introduction. I would think maybe you could put that in the header, a full width header, so that it's also not contributing to the long, um, page being way longer than the sidebar. Physical health and well-being have always been important to Hakkon, and he maintains a healthy lifestyle, going out of his way not to overindulge, feast, or drink too much on most occasions. Deep down, he is as passionate about life as most of his people and can be goaded into drinking and eating oath boasts with the right encouragement, where he has displayed an ability to feast and drink that have made many regret challenging him. He's tall, lanky, and powerfully built. His long, clean limbs have always provided a natural reach advantage against many foes, and he takes quiet pride in his physical virtues. Many would say that Hakkon is not the most handsome of men, nor would anyone call him ugly by any means. His features lean more towards the clean angles of his family line, with a somewhat heavy brow and a square jaw. What draws most to his face are his eyes, a pale blue, rare even among his own predominantly blue-eyed folk. They have been compared to ice by his admirers, and said to be windows that one can see into his naked soul. Very poetic storytelling as well with this character, and the nice descriptions. Once more, most would agree Hakkon's eyes are first and foremost among the creatures they know him by. He carries many, the features they know him by, sorry. He carries many battle scars that also serve to identify him. The slash marks across his back where he used his body to shield a child from a rampaging troll, and perhaps the most well-known of those. He rarely travels these days without wearing his family colors of blue and silver, and the High King's crown is never far, for he holds that title with great duty and dedication, especially to the stories of the warrior kings of old who freed his ancestors from slavery to giant. He, on rare occasion, jokes that he is a muscle mage or a sword sorcerer, but he has no aptitude for magic, nor does he display any powers beyond what a human who is very physically fit and well-trained might display. With his twin sister being a very talented witch, his older brother a skald who dabbled in both spell and swordsplay, and his friends who are shape-shifting berserkers and champions of the gods, he takes a measure of pride in just being a normal man who has worked very hard to be good with fighting, even making the rare joke that he is just a guy with a sharper than average sword. It tells a lot about his apparel and accessories, his specialized equipment, personal history. We learned he had a twin sister. He had fairly typical education. I think that this is an extra E. That's not necessary. He was the nephew of the High King. He often fell into the shadow of his twin sister's cunning prowess. He was by no means dull-witted and excelled in his studies. He was educated in combat, of course. Let's see, like all men of Vistaghast, he was educated in combat and warfare near as soon as he was old enough to hold a training sword. From even an early age, his strength and height gave him an advantage of reach and power on most of his sparring partners. And after he thoroughly defeated half a dozen boys his own age in a melee with training swords, his teachers would note that boy was something of a natural talent in battle. His great uncle, Thorvald, his primary combat teacher, offered little congratulations, however, and made the young Hakkon fight older and more talented boys, pushing Hakkon to his breaking point, until he was badly beaten by a much older and larger boy, breaking Hakkon's nose in the process. After his defeat and some time healing, Thorvald asked Hakkon what he had learned, and after a few moments of consideration, Hakkon replied, "I have learned 3 lessons today, uncle. 1, that natural talent is no match for skill. 2, that no matter how good you are, someone is always better. And 3, always wear your helmet." Thorvald smiled unexpected at the young boy's wisdom and gave Hakkon his first nickname, Hakkon Busted Nose. And while Hakkon rarely is called by that name, he remembers it and the lessons he learned in the training yard that day well. They tell about early employment. They were traveling as Vikings. Let's see. Among his people, nicknames are earned for important qualities, events, deeds in one's life, and Hakkon's many names are evidence of his many adventures. So many names this man has. Failures and embarrassments. Hakkon considers the death of his brother Stin to be his greatest failure, even if he may not have been able to prevent it. In the High King's own mind, he goes over the events often and thinks of how his actions might have prevented it. While he is by no means a flawless person, Hakkon is otherwise not overly prone to dwell on his failings and outwardly shows little sign of embarrassment. The exception being his sister's playful barbs and joking comments that all too easily break his icy defenses. So yeah, that was a failure. Even if he couldn't prevent it, he counts that as a failure. He tries his best to maintain his composure. You know, he wants to show people that he's strong, but I see that he does have some mental trauma. He's quite smart. Some would label him a dull-witted warrior, but those would be foolish because he is quite smart. He is a moral person driven by justice, and the idea that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. Justice is his motivation. He feels like the world is an unfair place deep down. His mother and father were taken from him before he was 3 years of age. He watched as his corrupt uncle used and abused good people, and his beloved older brother was murdered for his honesty. All this has made him take up the cause of bringing justice to an unjust world by his own actions as the core of his being. While he does crave adventure and the thrill of battle, it will always be his personal war against an unjust world that drives him to stand by what he holds true in his heart and dare any force that opposes this to test his mettle. So he has a lot of things. He loves life, enjoys good food. He has a weakness for blueberry pie. That's interesting. He loves battle, the din of combat, the song of steel, and thrill of a good fight. Very poetic wording and descriptions throughout this. Just, fair, and brave are Hakkon's dominant virtues. So there's lots of things. There's lots of little interesting things about this character. Like I said, there's a lot of lore. There's a lot of world building, and there's a lot of detail about Hakkon as an individual leader, and we see why he's such a good leader. So thanks so much again to Killer Corax for sharing this article of Hakkon with so many names. Like I said, maybe the sidebar will be the only thing that I have to say. There were a couple of spelling errors, grammar errors, but it's okay. If we could just make the sidebar extended and just correct some of the errors, you don't have to do that now, of course. That would be just my only suggestion. But I appreciate all the detail, and I like how you know, we can learn way more about the world than just the character as we read through that article. So thank you so much again for sharing that. And Killer Corla X says thank you. I appreciate you sharing. Next we have Khorvus'Malnoir. Not sure how to pronounce that. Malnoir. Khorvus'Malnoir by DM Torment. It's not too long of an article. Already we see that the sidebar is not very long, but that's okay. There's a lot of like big bold stacked up headers, but I know that this is because whenever you fill out these sections, these things start to appear. I believe that we can probably try to edit it slightly with CSS. I'm not sure what CSS you're using, but sometimes those kinds of things can be a bit distracting, especially when like there's 3 of them in a row with nothing under them. So I know that that's because summer camp, it's rushed. Lots of these articles are rushed. You were probably just trying to fill in all the spots you could, not necessarily trying to make this a pretty article. So we will just go ahead and read it as it is. Tyrannus, the Ruby Emperor Malnoir. He appears to be in peak physical condition for a dragon of his age, so he's a dragon. Despite his relatively young age, as a dragon, he represents the pinnacle of the Tier 1 dragons, being massive and powerful beyond compare. His scales are largely crystal, as if by the crystallization condition, but they do not seem to impede his ability to move, most of his body in ruby red, with the scales underneath his neck and torso being obsidian. His wing membranes likewise have an obsidian sheen to them. 2 large ear frills rest just behind his jaw and cover from jaw to the bottom of his horns. His horn crest starts above his eyes with 2 large upward sweeping horns. Roughly halfway up the horns they grow down and out several feet before growing forward again, as if mimicking his lower jaw shape, but out several feet. So it's very descriptive, so you can kind of imagine the character. His horn crest and the top of his head are covered in a form-fitting golden metal, the Tyrannus crown. The Tyrannus crown, ruby and obsidian scales, sheer size. That's his identifying characteristics. Already we see that he's a neutral good. He's currently in Mordith, and there's a link to what that is. He is a Belthurian dragon. And he's 512 years old. Has his birthday there. Molten gold skin, no pupil. No pupil in his eyes, I assume. So interesting. There's not a picture, but that's okay. We would just want to maybe add, that's enough, I guess, to have a description. And there's lots of description in this body. But we would just want to add some side bar article blocks or something to extend it downward, probably. Son of 2 of the trusted advisors to the draconic god of vengeance Ragnar, the eternal guardian, and Malistrisha, the obsidian. He was sent to the material plane at adulthood along with a flight of dragons who had caught the interest of the god of vengeance as a means of restoring the Duras Tyrant. Khorvus'Malnoir was under the impression that another was to be the Tyrannus, but such things are not up to the god of vengeance, as other forces shape destiny. The group of dragons spent time in assumed humanoid forms and moved about the world trying to help where they could, all while searching for the information they desperately needed. Many years later, the keeper of the Tyrannus stone, Nulroth Tesseran, Greyark, and Greyark Amara Shales, and Khorvus'Malnoir found the long-lost fortress of the last Tyrannus, and together they were able to put the mad spirit of the last Tyrannus to rest. While the crown was donned by each of the dragons, it refused all of them, save for Khorvus. So already, I would suggest also some of these having pronunciations, probably just in a tooltip. If you're not able to do a tooltip, it could just be a parentheses right next to the word. And I'm sure these are probably articles that are not yet done. If they are done, maybe you can link those, and then there can be a pronunciation up by the name, because there's an option to put the name pronunciation up by the names. He created Mordith, aided in reawakening the obelisks of creation to help restore balance to the arcane. His philosophy is that people must learn how to rely on themselves while helping others. Not inherently wrong, it can lead to dependency. This is why I will not use the power of the crown to solve all the problems of the world, for there is no life without challenge. Further, to use the Tyrannus crown is to make very large waves in a small bath. It will likely lead to more problems later, which could very well be worse. So that's a quote from himself, I assume. He wishes to heal the world, in particular his empire. While he does care about the rest of the world for the moment, his people are the most pressing concern on his mind, aside from the duty of maintaining the arcane. He's never been accused of lack of confidence. He inspires it in others. To his people, he represents hope to no longer have to live an existence simply waiting for hunters to after them. I guess to come after them. To be able to return to a true society, he represents the strength of character, will, and body to defend them and their new home. He is their beloved tyrannus, and while some may argue against his ideas, none have yet tried to overthrow him. So once again, thank you so much to DM Torment for sharing this article. Very basic, very quick to the point, but it told a lot of information. It told a story. I would just suggest those pronunciations and then just this sidebar issue. Other than that, there's no art to credit. It's okay. There was lots of vivid descriptions, so that helps as well. So thank you so much again for sharing that. Next, we have Ahmar Pearce by JibstaMan. And we will check out this article. I will link it in the chat. Also, if you have just stumbled upon this stream and you would like me to read your article, if you are a World Anvilite being who has written a Great Leader of Their People article and you would like me to read it, please do comment in the chat and redeem a Read My Article, please, so that I can skip to your article since you are here to see it. Once again, Ahmar Pearce. This is a very short to the point article, so we can look at it. Ahmar Pearce, also known as Ahmar the Tenacious, is a male human, 48 years of age. Ahmar is the leader of the Order of Perseverance, and there's a link to that. Great. He's a paragon to many people, although his singular focus can make him uncaring and cruel in regards to other societal issues. From a young age, Ahmar was a fighter, always playing with swords. When he was 17, he fought his first battle at Azmarin. His skill did not go unnoticed by members of the Order of Perseverance, and they recruited him. They soon got to know Ahmar for his inspiring charisma. For the next 10 years, he recruited a lot of new members for the Order and also showed he was a shrewd diplomat. When the next battle took place at Azmarin, he was already valued for his resoluteness, and there is a slight little quick tooltip there, which is a rank. His resoluteness is a rank akin to a colonel, with a number of members under his direct command. So I like the addition of tooltips when there's not necessarily a whole need to add a full article about it, or if you don't have time to add the full article about it, just a quick tooltip can help us to know what it is. He did not disappoint in the battle, showing just how far he's come in skills of combat. A few years later, the previous leader of the Order somewhat reluctantly stepped down. His own accomplishments were dwindling. Many members were vocal about their belief that Ahmar would make a better leader. Ahmar also got the endorsement of his persistency, and that's another rank, tooltipped nicely, further demonstrating his popularity. Under Ahmar's leadership, the Order convinced Aleksandra the 13th. Thank you for putting the little parentheses. Sometimes I get so mixed up with the Roman numerals. To send a small contingent of highly skilled warriors to Azmarin to help in its defense. Relations with elves and dwarves are also being kept, although they are less forthcoming with actual support. The most recent battle at Azmarin was again a resounding success among most people. Many bards sing tales of the successful employ of battle tactics and his great fighting skills. To Ahmar himself and people close to him, the battle didn't deserve nearly as much celebration. The defenses of Azmarin are getting weaker and weaker, and there's a great shortage of life clerics to heal the wounded. They are more and more relying on manpower rather than well-organized defenses, which is going to make recruiting increasingly difficult as the danger increases. So interesting. It tells a story that's obviously not yet complete. It gives us a little bit of his history and a bit of his leadership, but it does leave the door open for more to come. And it seems that he's not as celebratory of these battles because he knows that they are going to have to keep trying harder. So he does not want to stop there. He knows that improvement is a must. Ever improving. This is an interesting picture, and I think that it's probably an art breeder. I see that the ear is quite a bit asymmetrical, but that's fine. I do see that the art is not linked. No, art is not linked. I mean, credited. So I would suggest to credit this. The sidebar isn't too short in comparison to the article. The article's great, short to the point. If you just add one article block over here, or just add a bit more to under this little under alignment and species, perhaps put just a little bit more information or a quote from him or something like that, or just crediting the art. If this is an art breeder indeed, then this article will be right at length with the body, and I will be happy because I like when the sidebar matches up. That's just a personal little weird quirk of mine that I like to happen. But yes, like Asmarin, we can put that article block here, or either Order of Perseverance, you can put that article block here, or you could put a quote from him there, or something like that. But other than that, this is a very interesting character, very interesting article, short to the point, and yeah, nice art. This was very nice use of tooltips as well, and how different things were in parentheses to help aid the reader. Very interesting. And it made me want to know more about the world. The world is called Humble. Cool. The world is very much in its infancy. Haven't taken much care with preventing spoilers. Oh, well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you, JibstaMan, for sharing that world with us. Very interesting character and very interesting world. Katoypoi says, been lurking, but I have to go to bed. You're doing the work on these streams. Good night. Oh, thank you so much, Katoypoi, for joining, and have a blessed evening. I appreciate you stopping by and lurking. Yeah. Much love. Let's see. Next. Yes, I'm doing all the work here. PrippyMontyPoppyCock is presenting our next Kaggan of Blackhills. Kaggan? Not sure. But yes, interesting. This is quite a long article again, so we might skip through it. Ooh, interesting art. I like the style. I wonder, could this be AI? I don't think so. Let me see. I hope it's credited. All images are either commissioned by me or made by me using Inkscape, GIMP, MS Paint, Dungeon Draft, and or WonderDraft. I also started using a lot of AI generated art lately, such as Midjourney and Art Breeder. Any uncredited image is made by me. Cover image, PrippyMontyPoppyCock. Character portrait image by Sarah Campolo. And there's a link to the person. Cool. So that was a drawing. I was like, this can't be AI. That looks pretty nice. And AI looks nice, don't get me wrong, but I could tell that this seemed like it was by an artist that actually, you know, drew it. So I love how you credited that already, PrippyMontyPoppyCock. Thank you for sharing this article and for crediting. And yes, I like the blanket credits in the footer that says this here. All images by me unless otherwise stated, and then you stated otherwise. So that's nice. I might have to skim through this article, of course, because I have lots to do. I was supposed to do 30 articles, and I don't think I've even hit 10. And it's already 2 hours and something into the stream. But I will skim over it maybe. Thank you for understanding. Kaggan of Blackhills. Kaggan of Blackhills is a general of the Italian army. And there's a link. Great. The leader of the Pitch Black Brigade, link. And the former Baron, link, of Blackhills, link. Already, awesome use of links. And this article is quite long, but I see all these links. If you could take every single link that's linked in this article and just put the article block here in the sidebar, I'm sure it will probably extend downwards and at least almost match the body. That would just be my suggestion to you, Monty. Yeah. So let's see. He's the last dwarf in the line of Stridig of Blackhills, one of the founders of Ortol, who led the northbound expedition. At 350 years old, Kaggan is in his twilight years. He has silver hair at shoulder length and a well-kempt beard that is rather short for a dwarf, although he had a longer beard in his younger days. Bushy white brows, above brown eyes, and wrinkles spread all around. He is still considered good-looking for his age. He is quite good-looking. 350 years old? That's good looking. Most of the time, he wears the Pitch Black Brigade's signature black ilmenite. And there's a tooltip. I love tooltips. Iron and titanium alloy black in color. So ilmenite, plate armor, with only a red cape, with his heraldry attached to show his rank. He's born as the second and last child to the barony family of Blackhills. Kaggan received a military education, while his older brother was raised in the arts of politics, destined to take over as Baron when their father would eventually die. Kaggan proved to have a natural talent for leadership while in the military and quickly went from one rank to the next, once again rising up in the ranks. It was common for nobility having leading ranks within the army, but Kaggan rose due to merit. Though never aiming to join the Reavers, and there's a link to that, he led many expeditions alongside them in the wastelands of Gorlovoy. Here he met the legendary General Rupert McBluttard, another Blackhills native who saw great potential in the already talented dwarf. Under the general's tutelage, Kaggan, not sure, was given tasks and responsibilities way above his station. Successfully handling most of his challenges thrown his way, he became a general himself before the age of 50, well under the 150-year average age of dwarven generals in Ortal. So, while stationed in the fortified Vale of Gorlovoy, overseeing Reaver operations to the west, Kaggan was informed that his family, along with 1/3 of the population of Blackhills, had died from pox. Now having to take on the mantle of Baron, had to leave his military career at the age of 80. So then it tells about he went back to the Blackhills, the first Goblin siege of Blackhills. So there's lots of history and lore in this article. Very interesting. Then it tells the aftermath of these events. It tells the Pitch Black Brigade, the second Goblin siege of Blackhills. Oh, so yeah, it covers a lot of history about his accomplishments and things like that. So it does tell us that as of the year 2128 PGE, Kaggan is Regent Baron of Blackhills. So he's still Regent Baron of Blackhills. Very interesting. Yes, this is an interesting article. And yes, if you'd like to read more about it specifically, please do click the link in the chat. I cannot, unfortunately, read all this on stream, but I do appreciate, I love this because there's so many links to other things, because there's so much world building here, and there's so much lore, and not everything can be covered. And even there's so many tooltips even when there's no article linking, and that is something that I really appreciate so much. So this is a very nice article. The design is nice, the layout is nice, the art is nice, the crediting is nice. I would just only suggest maybe putting some pronunciation guides if I'm pronouncing things wrong. There is a link, in the creator, you can just put how the name is pronounced next to it and it will appear up here. Other than that, just linking all these article blocks in the sidebar to help to extend it down to this point. I feel like that will just make everything perfectly filled out. So once again, thank you PrippyMontyPoppyCock for sharing this article with us. Very interesting character, and I love the links and tooltips usage. Thank you so much again for sharing that. Next we have Hanhula. Not sure how to pronounce their name, unfortunately. Hanhula. Holy Princess Chandna. Holy Princess Chandna of Shiar. Alright. And if you'd like to check out that article, please go and click that link. Also, if you're just now joining us, we are reading through a lot of the great leaders of their people articles. Already very interesting art here. This is quite a long article, and but I like the layout. It's already very enchanting how it looks, the art, the colors. I would just see that, yes, the sidebar isn't completely filled out. So I would want some maybe more article blocks. Are there article blocks? Yes, this is a link to a thing, and all these kinds of things are linked right here. Yes, they are linked. They are linked here. But you can still take these articles that are linked here and put the article blocks here so that it can extend downwards and fill out the body. That's just what I would suggest. But this is a nice use of art within the article to break things up, quotes to break things up. Also interesting, and the layout already without even reading the article is very enchanting. Let me see if there's credited art. There is Chandra's bedroom by Hanhula via Midjourney. Midjourney. That is an interesting Midjourney piece. Quite interesting, and it actually looks like intentional art. Like it's not abstract, so that's a nice one. This one is kind of abstract, but this is Chandna's book by Hanhula via Midjourney. This is artist's impression of Chandna's magic by Hanhula via Midjourney. So different levels of Midjourney. This I don't think would be Midjourney. Her eyes do look a little bit uneven, but that would be some impressive Midjourney. I don't see the link to that. Let's see. The character portrait. Midjourney and GFPGAN, which I don't know what that is, but it's probably like after using Midjourney, also editing it a little bit. I would think that this is edited a little bit after just using Midjourney, because that being a Midjourney just like that would be like very weird and very advanced. But yeah, very interesting art. It does say that World uses trademarks from Paizo Inc. I'm not sure about Paizo products. Is it like a... It didn't go. It didn't go to Paizo. Okay, it's the link is broken. That's one thing to note. Sorry, in Hanhula. Yes, Pathfinder. Thought so. Okay. I figured that some of these things were probably from Pathfinder, RPG, TTRPG kind of trademarks. But yes, understandable. And it's good that you still did link it. But do note that your Paizo link is not correctly linked, and it just goes back to your homepage. Because if you notice at the bottom here, it says World Anvil, Hanhula, Paizo.com, which isn't a thing, so it redirects to your homepage. You might want to fix that link to where it goes. And this same thing too. This is community use, and it can't go because there's no such thing as that. So I think it's just a bad linking kind of thing. And you can easily just fix that by fixing the links. But just a heads up that those links are broken. Otherwise, let's read about the character. Beautiful, driven, and sweet. Oh, but if she were only a little more like her mother. And that was one of Chandna's critics. Chandna? Chandna? Or Chandna? Chandna? Not sure. That would be great also to have a pronunciation guide, perhaps. That would be another tip. We're going to skim through some of this because it's quite a lot. Chandna, daughter to Divine Queen Asphia, and the current sole heir to Shiar, is a pleasant and kind young woman who, when not dressed for occasions, does not seem like she holds the title of Holy Princess. Somewhat of an idealist, she is currently studying politics and advanced applications of magic at the University of Mazdarat. As a graduate student, having already attained certification in economic theory and natural magical phenomena during her late teenage years. Like her mother before her, Chandna was originally trained as a cleric in her youth. She has continued her studies in her own way, choosing to experiment with magic rather than to continue to follow in her mother's footsteps. Her duties as heiress to the Divine Queen take up a large majority of her free time. When she is not studying or carrying out various ceremonies, she often finds it comforting to escape the safety of her bedroom, where her trusted ladies-in-waiting, all chosen from her closest friends throughout her adult life, help her to avoid thinking too deeply about the burden she will one day bear. In this, she is grateful for her family's divine gifts, chief among which is her mother's seeming inability to grow old. Interesting. Lore of the world, interesting lore of the character. Average height, slight build, often dwarfed by her mother and those around her, carries herself with quiet determination. When in public, tends to relax more fully in private. Her hair, thickly textured and tightly curled, often styled into various beautiful braids if she isn't leaving it to sit naturally. She often accessorizes with various gold beads, charms, and tiaras. It does tell more about the family. She was not the first child, birthed by her mother. If all had gone well, she would have had 3 older siblings. Natara, the eldest, only survived until her early teens before an impossible sickness claimed her in scant days, and no magic could be worked to revive her. Indali and Kerav, fraternal twins of opposite sex, came next. They were inseparable friends and beloved by the nation until their tragic disappearance on their 18th birthday. Their bodies were recovered 3 months later by way of divine ritual, but their souls were forever lost. Even now, the Divine Queen offers great reward to anyone who can retrieve the souls of her lost children, and yet all who have tried have inevitably failed. While the other 3 were allowed to live peaceful, open childhoods, Chandra was different. I guess since she was the last one and like her other siblings disappeared or were killed or whatever, then her mother kept her close and trained her well. She didn't want her to be out. She could only have education and guided exploration, because she didn't. I guess their mom didn't want the same kinds of fates to befall her daughter, this daughter. The Holy Princess is one of the most intelligent and attentive subjects I've had the fortune of teaching when not distracted by her own thoughts and studies. She benefits from exercises in focus and additional free time in which to free her mind, and that's one of Chandra's tutors. She was forced to live her life largely through books and the stories of others. Chandna's curiosity and intelligence led her to great things. She has the wisdom of someone far older, and though she does not compare to her mother, she can command a crowd with relative confidence. She is incredibly empathetic, actively seeking out ways to improve the lives of her nation's inhabitants while protecting the land, but her failings come in confidence and humility. Humility, not humility. She struggles to accept the cult-like worship her mother fosters and often feels inadequate in her role as royal, even when she has more than proven otherwise. Likes and dislikes, she's very opinionated. You just don't know the real Chandna. That's one of her friends to a politician. She's not shy to make her clear her general dislikes, big and small. Her dislike of those seeking to game the system or abuse laws to protect, for instance, and also her vehement dislike of avocado. Her likes and loves she's most open with. Her love for the stars, magic, and nature is known throughout the land, and both her friends and her chefs have lengthy lists of her favorite foods, and those she similarly despises. And yet there's one deep dislike she can never bring herself to voice, her eternal feelings of inadequacy compared to her mother. When the seemingly immortal Divine Queen is your mother, and your friends pray to her daily, life can be challenging. She longs for company that is less like this, prior to Gaia's lament, and she was regular pen pals and close friends with a number of scholars abroad who helped reduce this feeling, and she hopes to one day travel for herself to experience normality. So an interesting character, interesting lore, interesting world, and this layout is just beautiful. The cover as well seems like it might be from Midjourney or something like that. Is this the... That's probably not the whole... Okay, there you go. Nope. So it doesn't say the world cover credits, but it does credit other stuff, and I could almost think that it probably is Midjourney as well. But yes, thank you for sharing this. This was nice coloration, nice outline, nice construction of the article. Only the sidebar I feel like would best maybe add some of these article blocks to extend it, or, as I said, once more, I can search again because I did talk about it earlier, but there's something called a sticky sidebar. I'm sure that Hanhula is familiar with it. But yes, if you see this here, this will keep scrolling and this will not scroll until it's at the end of the article. And that's called the sticky sidebar. That's another thing you can do just in case if it's too much to fill up the sidebar, then doing that will help the page to be more even. But thank you so much again for sharing this interesting article. If you're just joining us, we are going over lots of great leaders of their people. And if you are a world Ambolite who wrote one and you would like me to go over your article, please tell me in the chat so that I can jump onto your article now. Next we have Aleksandra Osipona Piet. It's quite a long name. I will try to see if I can pronounce it. I will try. Let me see. Hopefully there's a pronunciation guide here. Oh, already we see an interesting map. And it looks like our world map. That's the world cover. I figured this was in their language. Alright, it's gone. Okay. So Aleksandra Osipona Piatnitskaja. And sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Major of the engineering troop, Dr. Art Aleksandra. She's the head of Interministerial Committee for Scientific Corporation, since she also belongs to the closest circle around the head of the KJB, General Alexander Nikolovich Schleplin. Her duties also include espionage. As part of the Great Rehabilitation, Aleksandra and her brothers were promoted to important military ranks because of the forced death of their parents under Stalin, and deployed accordingly. So there's a small family tree here that tells their parents, and then the children. 23 years old currently. Green eyes. It didn't fully translate. Alright, some of this is not translating. Like I said, yes, you're gonna say, Google Translate is horrible. Why are you using it? Well, it's only because I can right click and then translate, but I know that some of this stuff might be lost to translation. Some of this stuff might not be as powerful and not as understandable. Oh, Cedar Hunnett says the portrait is actress from a Bond film. It looked like it was from a film. And yeah, I don't see any credits to the art. But yes, I would like to see credits to the art, even if it's just in the footer. Maybe like just putting it under the art in the sidebar if you want, or putting it in the footer. Also, this family tree is quite big. Maybe you could just add that to the sidebar instead so that it can even things out a bit. Let's go. She and her two brothers were picked up by the NKVD and without being able to say goodbye to their parents were taken to the detention center for underprivileged children in the former Danilov convent in Moscow, where they first had to work in the umbrella factory. There, Aleksandra also met Olga Guseva and Maria Bojinza, who would become her best friends in the years to come. For fear of the approaching German troops, the children were transferred to safer quarters. The girls were separated from the boys. On June 20th, 1941, the railway was transferred to Nikopol, north of the Kachwaka Reservoir. In addition to their school education, the girls were also forced to help in the scouring of Menengi's ore. February 13th, 1944, 10-year-old Aleksandra managed to detonate an explosive device on the bridge over the Dnieper Reservoir after her teacher had been shot by German soldiers. In the explosion, a train derailed and fell into the reservoir. All occupants of the hospital train and the military guard drowned in the reservoir. After the defeat of the Germans and the reconquest of Ukraine by the Soviet Union, Aleksandra and her companions were taken to a girls' school in Odessa in April 1944. In June 1952, Aleksandra graduated from high school with honors and was admitted to study architecture in Kyiv with the support of Alexander Sheplin. She studied architecture. She wrote a thesis on construction of the new Danby Bridge. After promotion to major in engineering corps, Aleksandra was sent to Kazanlak, Bulgaria, as part of an exchange project where she helped design a railway junction. Then there's more about mental drama. The death of the wounded from the blowing up of the bridge at the reservoir has haunted Aleksandra since she was 10 years old. Since then, she has tried to neutralize this event by planning and building bridges. Her courageous commitment abroad and her controlled, friendly manner could not hide her inner vulnerability. Aleksandra has a quick mind, is good at arithmetic, and likes to draw plans by hand. Her interest in Marxist philosophy stemmed from her mother, although she has only vague memories of early childhood. The joint upbringing in the children's home taught her how to conceal personal desires and how to be clever in dealing with others. So interesting character, interesting world. It seems like it's based a lot on our worlds and real life events. So interesting. I see this world is called 1957, so it's kind of probably like a historical fiction world. So thank you so much again for sharing this, and I would just suggest that maybe adding this family tree to the sidebar instead, or adding some quotes from her, or adding some little article blocks can help to extend that sidebar. And sorry if I was like butchering names, because I do not know how to pronounce some of these things. But to be fair, like I said, some of it is not, I can't really comment on specifics about grammar and all that stuff because this was not originally written in English. Also, it wasn't originally written in English, so I can't complain about pronunciations because in your native language, you would probably know how to pronounce those things. Unfortunately, I don't. So it's okay, but I apologize if I was butchering any names. But thank you so much again for sharing this article, Rakusa. And I think I'm going to do 2 more, and then we probably are going to have to go. I tried to do as much as I could. How much did I do? Just 10? 11, 12? I did 12. I thought I was going to do 30 to 50. I might just stay on a little longer and try to do 30 to 50. I'm halfway there, I guess. So, Ionthar Angelos by Vibeka. And once again, if you are lurking in the shadows and you would like me to read your article, please do read my article, please, so that I can read yours. Because I have lots to get through, as you see. This is another one that's quite long. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to skim through some of this, but already seeing this interesting font. Unfortunately, sometimes this makes it hard to read, but I'm glad that the regular font is easier to read than this fancy font. Excuse me. I will say already the sidebar is quite short, and these annoying relationships are too long. But yes, as I said, we can't do anything about those. Other than that, probably adding some little article blocks to the sidebar, maybe? Or adding some of the stuff like this. It seems like this can be maybe added to a full width header so that it doesn't contribute to the long body of the text. But yeah, let's see. Ionthar Angelos, John for short, is the current king of Elionis. By the comic book, he is nicknamed the Young Lion since he was the youngest to ever be crowned king of Elionis. At just 13 years old, he is known as intelligent, honest, and fair, as well as being quite mature for his young age. He's a great swordsman, but he is more interested in art, music, and literature. When he was younger, he used to spend all of his spare time to read books in the library of the castle of Jallr'hali. John is considered somewhat soft by some of the men in Elionis, since he views a woman's opinion just as valuable as a man's, but those closest to him consider this a strength rather than a weakness. Currently 17 years old, born July 16th in the year 1200. Interesting. Bright blue, greenish eyes, straight, thick, honey blonde hair. Interesting, even though there's not a portrait of him, we see the description of him. After his father, King Iliothor Angelos of Elionis, was brutally murdered when John was 13, he became king. He banished his uncle, Iohan, and I think there's a link to that person, yes, who had murdered Iliothor, which John witnessed. After that, his mind became filled with anger and hatred, but as long as he didn't have to think of Iohan, he was okay. It was only after he found out that Iohan was planning an attack on Elionis and already conquering and assembling an army that it all came back to the surface, which made him especially determined to fix the situation, which he now blamed himself for. Together with his sister, Zariah, there's a link to Zariah. Well, there's a link to Eliona, person, and... Oh, I think that must be an error. I'm like, that's weird. Sister is linked and Zariah is linked. I think that's an error. But together with his sister Zariah and later Marianda, he tried to... Unless his sister is somebody different. Together with his sister, Zariah, and later Marianda, I don't know if that's 3 different people or if it's his sister Zariah and another person added. Oh yes, Eliona is his sister. So, that means that was probably linked to Eliona, but for some reason it's not linking right. Because it does say Eliona person down here on the highlight when I highlight it. But I guess the link is broken. Anyway, he tried to prevent the attack by confronting Iohan, which unfortunately didn't go too well, resulting in 2 attacks on Elionis. The first attack, and there's a link to that, was easily fought off by the Elionian army alone. The second attack, and there's a link to that, was much more forceful, but John had made alliances with Aguilar and Lupier in the meantime, the latter of which, I think it means latter instead of ladder, so 2 T's instead of 2 D's, was sealed with his marriage to Princess Marianda Aeorelis of Lupier. to which John only agreed after Miranda had given her consent. In the final battle, he took the lead by challenging and defeating his uncle in single combat, thereby winning the war. So interesting character. He's quite athletic, agile person. He's currently nursing a bad leg injury he sustained during the second battle of the Angelor Fields. Relatively tall and doesn't look very muscular, but is deceptively strong. Face is youthful with elegant, clear-cut features. He has a rather sharp jawline and narrow, straight nose. He's often described as very handsome. Honey blonde hair, a tint of bright blue-green eyes, which can be quite intimidating if he so chooses. He has no notable physical quirks, but due to his leg injury, it's likely that he will not be able to fully bend the leg in the future, and therefore always walk with a slight limp. He's an excellent swordsman with a very elegant, quick, and light-footed fighting style. He also has a beautiful slinging voice and knows how to play the lute. Dresses in simple man's clothes, which he considers much more comfortable and practical than the formal clothing of a king. He always carries a dagger, which used to be Iohan's and was used to kill John's father. His favorite weapon to fight with is the longsword, and the sword that best works for him is the Sword of the Lion, a legendary dragonsteel weapon, which is part of the Elonian Regala. It was made to commemorate his great-great-great-grandfather, Ryarkos' bravery and sacrifice on the battlefield. Interesting. He liked reading and studying a lot in the library. He also likes music. Taught to fight from a very young age, but he was never really interested in this until his father was brutally murdered. He was crowned king at 13. He's been a widely respected warrior and leader since. It was hard to gain respect due to his young age, but slowly the people realized that he was an honorable, strong, and just leader, as well as being somewhat intimidated by his effortless air of authority and ability to always tell if he was being lied to. After he single-handedly defeated Iohan in a duel to the death and ended the War of the Lions, his reputation became undeniable, which led to a great moment where every one of his and his allies' soldiers knelt to him when he returned to the castle after the battle, a very rare gesture of the utmost respect. So there's very many details about this character, very interesting character. I'm skipping a bit. He likes to sing and play the lute, although he didn't have the time or peace to do it in a while. Beautiful singing voice, which also translates into his way of speaking. His voice can have soothing quality to it, while also being able to carry across a room effortlessly. He's able to find just the tone of voice and type of language to get his point across exactly the way he wants it to in nearly any given situation, but he normally doesn't use this ability for manipulation. He rarely swears, so if he does, it carries quite a bit of weight. Interesting. He has the habit of resting his left hand loosely on the hilt whenever he wears a sword or dagger in his belt, in a non-threatening way. That's weird. I can try to imagine him resting it on in a non-threatening way, I guess. He's not like on guard, but he's like just resting it there. Interesting character, and we would like to read more about it. There's lots more lore and information. There's, of course, these relationships that are annoyingly stuck in the body of the text, but it's okay. Once again, thank you so much for sharing that article, Rebecca. And I apologize if I'm getting any of the names wrong, the pronunciation. But I did suggest about the sidebar, and I think that's all. Very interesting character. Sorry I had to skim a bit, but thank you so much for sharing that one. Next we have Lily Parsons by B.C.G.R. Worth. Interesting character. Ooh, quite a long article as well. We're gonna skim through it a bit. Mayor Lily Mari Keck Pinch Parsons. Lily Parsons was a major figure in history of steel mill corners on Lepidus, a rancher's daughter who grew up into a tough as nails leader in the aftermath of the Midnight. Lily and her husband, Kedry Keck Pinch, went on to fortify and expand the tiny rail down to the extent that it would grow to become the geopolitical powerhouse it eventually came to be. One and only daughter of the person's family, an old and respected northern Lepidosian family that had been working the unforgiving Great Ilmenite Desert around steel mill corners since times immemorial, though they were followers of Railkep and thus open to sacrifice or enslavement by the ascendant magocracy of Lepedos. The Parsons leveraged their wealth and stocks of beef and grain to convince the emissaries of the government to look the other way whenever they came calling at steel mill corners. Mr. Anders Parsons was the most prominent citizen of the town at the time, acting as a civic leader for the region even before his formal election as mayor. Current status: deceased replica present in the Matryoshka multiverse, which is interesting world building already. Lawful good. Tells about the species. Human offshoot population. Ethnicity, 86 years age. Circumstances of death was advanced age. Still no corners. Husband, brown eyes, light brown hair, khaki skin, 5 feet, 101 pounds. And this is a picture of her created by Hero Forge. Created in Hero Forge. So interesting. We're skipping through a bit. Unfortunately, I have a lot to get through. Let's see, after a long period of roaming. Alright, so let's see. Her mother died of exposure when Lily was 16. 3 years later, Worth Harkin, which is a person, his Harknight expedition arrived over Lepedos. After a series of failed negotiations to persuade the magocracy to give up their slaving occult practices, Worth and Shank Moswin intervened, forming the Northern Lepidosian Revolution while bombarding the magocracy's great equatorial cities with nuclear weapons from orbit. 2 years after the bombs fell, when the weather had grown colder and most every Lepidosian had at least some exposure to fallout, Mr. Parsons succumbed to an aggressive thoracic cancer. Lily assumed then that the stress of everything that happened to their world had driven him more than ever to go be with her mother in the afterlife. This left Lily as the sole remaining member of the family, and the citizens of Stillmill Corner subsequently looked to her for protection and guidance in the troubling times after midnight. Crop yields were low. The once lucrative trade with the capital region was severed, and roving bands of highwaymen and other raiders sought to plunder what was left of the sleepy farming community. Lily demonstrated considerable resolve during this time, stepping into the civic responsibilities left by her father as though she had been born to fill that role. She showed herself to be firm, cunning, and straight-talking, all traits that endeared her to the townsfolk and made her a hard target for various forces seeking to exploit her or her town in those chaotic post-apocalyptic times. After a long period of time roaming the great Ilmenite Desert, fighting loyal stragglers and putting down bands of raiders in an attempt to restore order in the aftermath of the midnight, the band of adventurers calling themselves the Waste Wanderers arrived in Stillmill Corners. These individuals, including Kedry Keck Pinch, Sergeant Bill Price, Anita Belker, Jay Fisherall, and Dr. Reed Vanguard, were looking to settle down and put down roots in a town they could defend as their own. Stillmill Corners, with its high iron perimeter walls and ready access to mineral and agricultural resources, fit the Waste Wanderers' needs nicely. This is the Stillmill Corners flag, I assume, by B.C.G.R. Worth. Lily and Kedry became fast friends and, with time, lovers. They were married in the spring after it became apparent that Lily was with child. Worth visited And that's linked. So something about this. The town on one of his platforms around this time and ascertained that she would soon bear twins. It was also during this time that Worth began the lengthy process of recording the brainwaves of his friends and the wanderers and the people to which they were attached, including Lily, for a certain special project, a planned Matryoshka brain in which uploads of these individuals would live on as HLAI, human-like artificial intelligence. Lily would never become aware of this fact during her biological lifespan. So that's interesting. I guess that's what they mean by she lives on in the Matryoshka multiverse. There's very much more about the character. Well, unusually well read for a farm girl. Knack for chemistry made her useful on the ranch. She could whip up batches of fertilizer, insecticide, and gunpowder, among other useful chemicals as needed for the task at hand. She grew older, dabbled in pharmacology, sharing notes with Dr. Vanguard and his wife, who were both formally educated on the topic. She was better at than most rustlungs and had a courageous spirit that made her a natural leader among her people. She had a knack for reading people's true intentions. Importantly, no matter how she felt on the inside, Lily was always firmly in control of her emotions, as she considered it important to set a good example for those under her governance. She knew that people depended on her and kept that at the forefront of her mind at all times. Lily would break down complex problems into their atomic, most important parts and set about solving them in the most direct manner possible, a quality that made her extraordinarily difficult to push around for the roving bands of raiders that would sometimes come through the town in search of easy targets. Toughs would get in her face and get her shotgun barrel pointed in their face in return. Threats and bribes were similarly useless, as Lily knew what the long-term results would be if she wavered in her commitment. And it tells that she and her husband were quite mutually vital towards each other, frank and honest. So yes, once again, thank you for sharing this interesting article, interesting character. Yeah, these relationships are unfortunately stuck in the body of the text, but I do ask, maybe you can add some article blocks to the sidebar just so that it can be extended down. I saw there were quite a few links to different things like this: Stillmill Corners, Great in Ilmenite Desert, Worth Hakkon visited, and this is the cost, I guess. It's an interesting article about Worth Hakkon and the brain thing that he did. But yeah, just put those articles maybe in the sidebar or something to help extend it down, and that would just be my advice. Other than that, thank you. It's a very interesting article. A very interesting world. A lot of world building has apparently been done. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. I might just call it quits there. I was not able to get 30 articles, but I still think that I did quite a bit. And, yeah. It's really late now here. So, I will say thank you to every one of you who have been lurking, joining, reading, allowing me to read your articles, watching this in the future. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me always. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow there's going to be the last 2 streams on this. Hopefully I will somehow be able to get through the rest of these articles and make a comprehensive decision of who I want to be the winner of this. And it's going to be so challenging. There have been so many interesting articles so far, and I appreciate you guys sharing your articles, letting me read them on stream. Even if you haven't let me read them on stream, there were still some interesting articles that I read outside of my streams. And yeah, sorry to those ones that were multipassed. Unfortunately, I could not access them. But other than that, the ones that are readable, I've been reading them all. If I have permission to read them on stream, I'm trying to do that. But yes, happy time zone to you guys, wherever you are. It is quite late for me. I've been on the stream for about 3 hours, so I'd better call it a night. You guys have a blessed day, evening, afternoon, night, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. And thank you so much for joining me. God bless, and hope to see you guys again soon. Whether this be, you know, on a recording or in person. Doesn't matter. Alright, have a blessed one. Thanks so much.